Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaronism back with a live video for you this morning. Thank you for joining me on what should be an interesting day. With me today are my co-hosts for Globebusters, where you can find us every Sunday. We're on at 12 p.m. Pacific time till usually about 3 o'clock Pacific time. And joining me first is Bob. Bob, what's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot, Jaron. Glad to be here with you today, and this should be interesting. Seeing NASA CGI in 4K, I can hardly wait.
Should be quite beautiful. And also joining us is John the Morgile. John, what's going on?
Same shit, different day. In terms of NASA and their CGI, yeah, I can't wait. I'm really waiting to see what this whole rigmarole looks like. Yeah, beautiful day, perfect day for some NASA bullshittery.
Well, I'll bring up the page so you can see what that looks like. And this is the website that you can actually go to. The link is in the description if you wanted to check out that link just to see what we're going to be looking at. This is the website here where it's supposed to happen. It just says go to this website at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, which is in about 8 minutes. It's an interesting little thing here. It's talking about watch live April 26, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. Then it says down here, featured in the 2017 NAB show Super Session. And then in quotation marks here, it says, reaching for the stars, connecting to the future with NASA and Hollywood, which is interesting. Produced by NAB show, NASA, and Amazon Web Services. So definitely interesting. Hopefully people are in the, people who are watching, if you have a camera and you happen to be in these locations, and I'll show you right now what I'm talking about. So, all right. So we've got these. This is at 10 o'clock. Sorry, is this at 10? Yes. Bring up this one. Okay, so this first picture we have on the screen now, this is at 10 o'clock where the ISS will be. And you'll notice something weird here, Bob. And if you see this kind of oblong green circle here?
Uh-huh.
Which is weird because we only see in a circle. So I started thinking, well, why is it look, this is the viewing path of the ISS. And so I was wondering, why is it that we only get this green, outline here? Why is it so oblong? Well, if I take it and do that Cartesian to polar that you've seen me do before, you'll notice that kind of cleans up that circle. So it's certainly interesting.
Oh, yeah, it does.
To see that, and then when it gets to the equator, of course, it's just fine and dandy. But here is the problem. So if you're outside, or you can go outside and take a picture before this thing starts, again, right at 10:30, we're going to be seeing the ISS here. Miss already went out about 15 minutes ago and took this picture. So this is showing you how, I hate to say it, but it never looks like this. Yeah, to us. I mean, this is definitely different for us. This is pretty ugly. So I guess we can expect to see heavy cloud cover. Then, so like I said, 10:30, we're going to see this. This is 10:37. You're going to be a little bit further along. And so if you're outside when this thing's going over your head, you won't be able to see the ISS. Hello? Oh, maybe that's the channel.
Is that the NASA porn movie or porn movie sound?
We'll swing over there. I think that's where the sound's coming from.
Yeah, I've got, it might be mine. Oh, you know what? It was mine. I'm sorry.
It's Bob's porn music.
No, yeah, it's my porn movie. No, actually, I've got the page up I've got a different page up than you do. It's the live.awsevents.com NASA 4K.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
I'm not seeing it on our local screen, but it's kind of a aqua-colored screen.
Yeah.
Anyway, the sound just kicked on it.
Oh, that was ours then. Okay, that's why it was.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it wasn't yours. I mean, it was coming from me, but nevertheless, it was NASA's porn movie, not mine.
Yeah, it was definitely porn music, porn quality music at least.
Yeah. That's funny.
Let's see here.
So Yeah, I'm still not seeing any video on it yet, but that's okay.
Either I will
Hopefully-
reload it just to see. Nope.
Okay,
Now we got
Peg-
something. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, you have to hit the play button there.
You're back too. Wonderful. Quick question. Is it okay throughout the interview to refer to you as Peggy and Jack at times, or would you prefer Commander Whitson and Colonel Fischer the entire time?
I hear Buster barking. I just got this visual of a dog kind of floating around on a chain outside of the ISS.
He's not chained up. He's a great guard dog.
You don't seem sufficiently nervous.
Bob, did you happen to watch the President Trump talking to the guys in the ISS?
I watched part of it. Yeah, God, it was ridiculous.
Brutal.
Yeah, very, very. But yeah, I had to take off and run up to Fort Collins last night, so it kind of got cut short. So I'll finish watching the rest of it today.
How long does he talk to him for?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, not too long.
One more time.
Oh, I'm sure he's got a wealth of intellectually stimulating conversation for them.
Sound check number 5 from NAB in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. So Cammie just handed me a note saying that Morgan and I both have small echo and lots of reverb on our voices.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try and fix that.
Yeah, as I say, it sounds fine on the internal hang up here. So
That's what I didn't know. Could be because this thing's on. Let me see if I turn this on. Ask her about now. Go ahead and talk and see if it's any better.
How about now? How about now?
How now, brown cow?
How about now, brown cow?
okay, she's checking it. Hang on. Or I guess we. Okay, yeah. Ace McLeod says it sounds. Oh, he says he thinks. Okay, Cammie says it sounds better.
Okay.
And if anybody out in the chat, if we start getting weird on our audio, let us know, because I will be watching the chat.
Sorry about
Hey,
that.
what do you get when you cross a brown chicken with a brown cow?
I don't know.
I give up.
Brown chicken, brown cow. No.
All right, and that'll conclude today's show.
We're done.
Goodbye, everyone. Farewell.
And I also have this thing on. Let's see if it will work here. Yeah. Can I move that thing? I just added the little locator thing there. Don't know if it's updating or not. I have to see when it goes on the live feed.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, they should be going on in about 1 minute. That's assuming they are on time. All right, beautiful.
Who, NASA? Yeah, sure. I'm sure they'll be on time.
Yeah. Well, they have all those atomic clocks. They should be. For sure.
Well, that's another
Well,
thing I was
yeah,
going to ask you about.
I was gonna say maybe they forgot to set for time dilation. What, Jaron?
I was going to ask Bob if he'd heard about that guy. I can't remember his name right now. The guy that worked with the GPS. He's the one that actually found the GPS error. And then he started working for the government. God, I can't think of his name. I'll think of it.
Was it the kid, supposedly, that pointed it out? Or
No, now he's much older. But he's the one who's going around saying that relativity is nonsense because he found the code that they
Yeah.
put in.
Well,
Wait, who was that? Who was that?
I'll have to find his name. I can't think of it right this second.
yeah, I agree. Relativity is nonsense.
Absolutely.
That's just a way to really smokescreen everybody and confuse them because, you know, when you're trying to say that nothing has any relative comparison to anything else, I mean, it just gets confusing because you're just sitting there going, WTF does that mean, you know?
I was just seeing if I could put that on there. Yeah, that works. See, I put the chat on there, so pretty cool.
Oh, yep. There you go.
While we're listening to this rap music.
That's still coming from NASA? This is NASA wrap here?
Yeah.
It's actually pretty sweet, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, they're like I said, they're trying to appeal to a specific demographic of younger people because that's, you know, ultimately where the market's going to be, which is way different from back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when, you know, they tried to be so incredibly professional. Now it's just like, hey, grooving, man, you know, we're hip.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of younger people who think that they're going to one day, you know, colonize Mars. Honestly, I mean, there's a lot of people that really think that, and they're preparing themselves for it and everything. And you know, the sad truth is that they've been making these sort of claims for, you know, decades and decades and decades, and it's, you know, they always just sort of kick the can another 5 or 10 years, and we were going to colonize the moon, but it wasn't really feasible or cost effective, but we're definitely going to do Mars and, you know, terraform it and, you know, all this great stuff that'll never ever happen. But of course they'll charge us up front for it for years and years.
Yeah.
Bastardos.
Yes, indeed.
Well, this music is terrible. Come on, guys. Do you hear it? Oh, I didn't know if you heard it.
Actually, it almost kind of sounded like Nathan's opener music, but I like his a lot better. I love late Nathan's intro. I think it sounds cool, but I mean that's almost kind of what this beat sounded like.
You mean the one that I made for the Alt News Tonight?
For the Alt News Tonight, yeah.
Yeah, I
Sounds
like
a
that
little
one
bit
too.
like that. Yep.
I gotta make a new
Oh,
one.
you made that? I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd be
Well, it's
amazed the amount of logos out there that I made in some way or another. I just made the Flat Earth Builders logo. He's the one who's building Flat Earth coffee tables. Or Missa actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Missa made his logo.
Oh, that's cool. So did you trade a logo for a coffee table, or?
I don't know if that's the deal or not. I would love one.
Gentlemen, our program will begin shortly.
You already said that.
Please take your seats. And as a courtesy,
Oh,
please turn off all.
All right, everybody, please take your seats.
Thank you.
This is typical, though. You watch. They're gonna wait. They're gonna wait till they're off the coast of the East Coast. Let's go look at the picture real quick. See where we're at. So again, it's already 10:37 about, so we're gonna be, so it's already past us now. It's over about you, Bob. How's your sky right now, Bob?
Yeah. Crystal clear. Not a cloud in the sky in Denver.
And blue?
Well, actually, there's a couple clouds, but yeah, it's very blue. There's a few clouds, cumulus clouds, but just little white puffy cotton balls. It's really a nice day.
Hey, looking at this little diagram here, obviously, you know, you've got the trajectory of the ISS, and then you've got the image of what looks like the ISS, which is obviously not to scale, but is that the size of that image, is that supposed to represent sort of the visible radius of like where it can be seen from, or?
No, the green line is the green circle.
Ah, okay, I can barely see it. Yeah, so it looks like it may be visible for me towards the northwest a little bit later on. And I've got some clouds, but
Ladies and
some
gentlemen,
blue
we ask that
skies.
you Please take your seats. Our program's about to begin.
So, Jaron, Cami said that on our audio levels, Morgal, you're a little bit loud, and Jaron, you're a little bit soft, and apparently I'm in the Goldilocks zone, so I'm nominal.
Okay.
Haha.
Don't use that word, Bob.
Okay, yeah, there were a couple people in the chat that said the voices were low, so I upped my mic a little.
Can you turn it down a little bit, John?
Yeah, let me go back and turn it back down a little bit. Okay, hopefully that's better. If not, then
We can't do anything about this annoying music either, so.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
Yeah, I didn't notice a lot of change, John.
Have her check now on my
Yeah,
voice.
I put it down 50%. Somebody just said Morgal's good in the chat. Thanks, Elevate Your Mind.
And me, am I
Dave
okay?
Hinkle says y'all sound good. Your mic levels are nominal.
All right, our mic levels are nominal. All right, guys. Well, again, we appreciate this feedback because in the hangout, Jaron sounds just the same as Morgal to me, and I'm sure that vice versa all the way around. So we really can't tell what it sounds like when it goes out on the broadcast. So whenever we have problems on Globebusters, Cammy always comes up and tells me to adjust the audio one way or another a little bit. So we appreciate the feedback, and it makes it a little bit better listening experience for everybody.
Yeah, appreciate it a lot. And we have nothing to do with the music, so
Working out.
we'll turn off the music before you start. There we go.
To the future with NASA and Hollywood. Please welcome to the stage NAB's own Sam Matheny.
All right, Sam.
Vice President and Chief Technology Officer.
Can you up the volume on the presentation?
I think so.
Thank you. Good morning, and welcome to Reaching for
Should be
the
able to turn it
Stars,
right up on the video
connecting to
itself.
the future with NASA and Hollywood. NAB Show is the place for groundbreaking demonstrations of advanced media technology. And today, we are truly bringing you something that is out of this world. You are here to witness and to be a part of an amazing collection of astronauts, filmmakers, and technology leaders that will take you behind the scenes of the advanced video and cloud workflows that power deep space research, that ignite our imagination about the future in vast areas of science and storytelling, and that create the foundation for the future of space commerce. Today, you will be a part of the first ever live 4K ultra-high definition transmission from space and the International Space Station. The first live discussion with astronauts in space at the NAB Show. And an incredible gathering of scientists, astronauts, technologists, and storytellers. Such an effort requires great teamwork. And
emphasis on the storytellers.
Fantastic collaboration between our teams here at NAB, Amazon Web Services, AWS Elemental, NASA, and Christie. We must also offer a special thanks to the military and government conference as they enabled Dave McQueenie's participation today. So, as the saying goes, what goes up must come down.
He almost got that wrong.
What goes up must come down, except when what goes up goes into outer space. And that is what makes the first ever red camera to go to the International Space Station so special. This camera was a vital tool used to further our scientific studies and the interests of NASA's space exploration. It recently returned to Earth, so it did successfully come down. And I'd like to invite Dylan Mathis and Rodney Grubb of NASA and Jared Land, president of RED, to the stage to conduct a brief ceremony with this vital first UHD camera.
By storytelling, he means compulsive lying, I think.
In 2015, NASA and RED collaborated to fly a RED Epic Dragon to the International Space Station. This camera has served us very well and has recently returned to Earth after 437 days in space. And it was replaced by another RED Epic Dragon, and it will help us to continue to probe deeper into the mysteries of space. With Rodney Grubbs, I'm Dylan Mathis, as principal investigators for this project, we would like to present to you the first camera back from space.
Thank you.
Okay, giants do exist.
Thank you.
I always feel like a hobbit standing next to Jared.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dylan, Rodney, and Jared. That is very, very cool stuff. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Carolyn Giardina, technology editor at The Hollywood Reporter, to set the stage for the panel discussion, including our first ever live ultra-high definition conversation with the International Space Station commander, Peggy Whitson, who also just happens to be the U.S. astronaut with the most cumulative time in space. Carolyn, come tell us what to expect.
Most
Good morning.
cumulative time underwater in
For
a
the next
tank.
hour, this panel will look at how NASA and Hollywood use advanced technologies and inspire one another. This includes technologies such as 4K and cloud. Today, we will begin by demonstrating for the first time ever a live public 4K broadcast from the International Space Station. And since this is time sensitive due to the position of the ISS, I'm going to quickly hand this over to Sam Blackman, CEO and co-founder of AWS Elemental, for this segment of the session, and then we'll continue with our panelists.
It's time sensitive. The damn thing goes over every 45 minutes.
Who's excited? First live 4K transmission from space ever. Let's get right to it. Johnson Space Center, can you do the audio check?
Go ahead and pretend there's a delay.
Coming. We should hear it in the room very shortly.
What is the audio stream getting there by Pony Express? This is ridiculous.
It's 250 miles away, not 250 billion.
I know, that's absurd. I thought the moon delays were ridiculously long.
Yeah, well, there's a delay, so it must be real.
I saw it on TV.
True.
Okay, here we go. Hello, Commander Fischer and Commander Whitson and Colonel Fischer. It is an honor for all of us and those online to join you and all of your colleagues at NASA in the first ever live 4K stream.
They're not even going to show the Earth.
What is the ISS position in orbit right now?
Commander and Colonel Liar.
11 seconds.
Wow, 11 seconds. Why?
Oh, come on.
Well, we're just passing over Baja, California, and we're heading in an arc over North America. By the time we finish talking, we'll be over Central Africa.
Wow.
Wait a minute, where are they at, Jaron? They're way past Baja, California.
Yeah, look at it. It's on the screen there.
About NASA's use of live 4K, I'd like to share about Peggy's exciting achievement that was recently made on the ISS and in space.
She made the microphone?
Peggy, you made 8 spacewalks, and you recently set the record for the most days in space by an American astronaut. Congratulations.
Her soul just literally died.
What inspired you to become an astronaut?
You gotta be kidding me.
Wow.
Actually, when I was growing up, I saw the first men walk on the moon, and I thought, wow, cool job. Of course, it didn't really become a goal of mine. It was just a dream. But when I graduated from high school, the first female astronauts were selected. And that's when it truly became a goal for me. Luckily, I had no idea how hard it would be, and I just worked really, really hard and spent a lot of years getting there, and a lot of hard work. But in the end, I got lucky, and some of that work paid off. So it's been well worth the journey, for sure.
Well, it's an inspiration to thousands of students in the United States and the entire world, so thank you so much. Now, of course, we're calling from the NAB show here in Las Vegas, where next generation broadcast and production technology comes to life. Are there any films about space that have truly inspired you?
Capricorn 1.
This delay is absurd.
Come on.
I wonder if she's like a Freemason, like an Order of the Eastern Star.
Well, for me, it was definitely the right stuff. As a test pilot who, Edwards was my second home. You know the start where he's like flying through the clouds and he's talking about there's a demon that lives on the meter. And
what?
The plane crashes, it explodes, it goes to color. That's just so awesome. And then also Spaceballs, because we're basically flying at ludicrous speed right now.
Okay.
That is absolutely true.
All right, you guys got to notice something that is immediately apparent. The echo is immediate and the crowd reaction is immediate with absolutely zero delay whatsoever. Fake, fake,
Amazing.
fake.
All right, we could watch that microphone spin for a long time. So, talking back to technology, can you help us understand the role video plays in your space work?
Oh God, why do they always have to do that?
Yeah, and listen to the echo and the crowd reaction when the astronauts are speaking. It's instantaneous.
Well, when we're traveling at 17,500 miles an hour, there's a lot of data going by even just looking at the Earth below us. And because we're traveling once around the world every 90 minutes and the Earth is precessing underneath our orbit, we get to see all over the world. And we're in different places each time we pass over a particular area. And so it is amazing amount of data that allows us to capture some of that in high resolution. But actually inside the space station, we're also capturing a lot of data, high data resolution for the scientific experiments. Inside the racks that we have around us, we have many different types of experiments, either cell cultures, microbiological cultures, protein crystallization. We're doing combustion experiments and lots of studies looking at different physical properties. So it's very exciting, and
Wow.
being able to capture a lot of data is very important from us scientifically.
Well, that was very
What do live
descriptive.
4K and Ultra HD help you do on board the ISS in terms of scientific research that you couldn't do before?
We can study science.
Yep.
And we can
lots of
draw
science.
conclusions. And we can spin microphones.
Well, I think Peggy mentioned a lot of the reasons. You know, with these new cameras and new technologies, we're able to get higher resolution, higher frame rates, to capture different science for some of our experiments, ultra slow motion for some of the effects that are very short-lived, yet very important. So there's a lot of science both on the station, looking at the Earth, and I think even more importantly is the inspirational aspect, because you know, 4K and ultra high def actually make you feel like you're there. I mean, if you look really close, you can probably see into my pores right now. Granted, nobody wants to see there, but everybody wants to see the Earth from this vantage point.
Sure.
And by looking down at the Earth with this amazing new technology, we're able to inspire an entire new generation of explorers. So I think probably the biggest impact that these technologies will have is bringing everyone else on the planet to see these amazing sights that we get to see every day and inspire them to push beyond just living on Earth.
Absolutely, yes.
Instant.
This is pathetic. Did you guys catch the guy coming out of the back of the space
Can you show
station?
us some experiments in space in live 4K?
Oh boy.
Yeah, show us something in space from live 4K. Notice everything else is blurry except them. They're crystal clear and everything else is completely blurry.
Oh, there it
He
was.
said they're going to capture
Actually,
science.
we'd love to do that. And so a lot of these are kind of things that we do maybe to have a little bit of fun, that just because you can do them in zero gravity. So we're going to play a little ping pong, but it's kind of space ping pong because we're going to use a ball of water as our ball. So Jack's going to build a ball of water here with the pushing water out of the straw of the drink bag. He's got a little ball of water, and we're going to play ping pong.
$52 million a day.
Yeah. I saw
Boy,
this
this
on an episode of The Big Bang Theory, I think.
Yeah. This is ridiculous. Absolutely. Why don't they take that 4K camera and point it out the window towards the Earth?
I want to see that as well.
Yeah, they'll never do it.
What was she talking
This
about?
is
The
phony
Earth,
as a $3
the Earth
bill.
processing below her. They're going 17,000 miles per hour. The Earth is going 1 in the same direction. You wouldn't. It doesn't. It has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. Well, in addition to that, they're also 2,000 miles off on their reported position.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a small error.
You gotta love water splashing around all the electric equipment in there too. That's always smart.
And now we'd like to show you another demonstration. The next one I think we'll go after will be what we call, actually it's going to be a ball of water, but it's got a little additive put in it. We're going to add a little Alka-Seltzer to
We've
this
all
water
seen this.
and
We've
let
all
you see
seen
it.
this.
And we're going to move up close, so we'll get our focus up here a little closer so you can see it in more detail.
These people make me livid.
Yes.
Hey, can
This
someone
is so
please remind them to
retarded.
close the frickin' hatches behind them?
Yeah, just make sure you get it out of frame so we can't see any reflection in the water bottle or in the water droplet.
I mean, that can so easily be done with CGI or even in a parabolic maneuver in a high altitude aircraft. It's ridiculous.
4K shouldn't be that blurry behind them.
No. Well, I mean, they're going to say depth of field. And yeah, so look at all these nifty tricks that they're doing. Wow.
And a little food
That's
coloring
probably
added to that.
$52 million a day.
Totally worth it.
I think we should give them more.
That's kind of what I keep
And of
hearing
course,
in my
all
head.
these things are happening because of the surface tension plays such a big role, and it's not impacted in zero gravity by the forces it is on Earth. So that's really a fun way to demonstrate that. Another really interesting thing is something called thin films, and you can do them also here in zero gravity. We're going to get set up for that one.
Oh my God! Oh, that was you, Jared. Okay. I thought, no way, did they really do that?
Ask and you shall receive. It's more like
well, that's apropos, I'll tell you. So what is this going to be? A whole broadcast of parlor tricks in 4K? Show us the Earth.
I guess they're going to keep doing tricks, but it seems like they're maybe hanging upside down by harnesses, and if they're in some sort of an aircraft doing parabolic maneuvers in order to create an inertially neutral environment, then
what's that green dot right there?
Huh?
What's that green dot? That's not moving at all.
Yeah, it's food coloring, and well, it just goes to show you that whatever they're using has a high viscosity. It probably has like some sort of corn syrup or something in it. Oh my, this is pathetic.
Of water here.
What?
Okay, and Jack's got a little bit of food coloring we're going to add to it.
Science.
What is she?
This is going to solve all of humankind's problems, guys. Trust me.
Oh, Coriolis effect.
Wow.
It's amazing.
How could they have done worse than I expected?
Peggy, Jack, I don't know if you can hear the oohs and ahs in the audience here, but it's tremendous.
No oohs and ahs from us.
What is that?
Oh, it's cool looking, but it's...
I think it's a DMT trip.
It's just it's mind-blowing to be watching this in real time.
What's that green dot?
Wow. How do you imagine the future of NASA in terms of where advanced imaging technologies will take you next? Say maybe Mars?
Say probably never?
Mars CGI.
What are we doing?
She's going to blow bubbles now.
Actually, I think advanced technologies are going to be required to go to Mars, and especially advanced imaging. Obviously, it's important to us to better understand where we're headed. It minimizes the risks if we better understand that in advance. And so all the studies, all the imaging studies from different rovers and missions that we send to Mars before we actually arrive are going to be critical to a lot of the decision process that will occur.
Jesus.
You control it.
You mean like the Curiosity that they sent there and sent back CGI
so
fakery instead of real
fascinating. Okay.
footage? And
Well,
by playing with
Commander
water
Whitson,
bubbles in
Colonel Fischer,
a
this has
legend
been one of the
space, that's going to
most
somehow get us
remarkable
closer to
exchanges
Mars? I mean, give me
I've
a
ever
break.
had.
Yeah.
Your
You know what's really
insights
absurd
are
about this
fascinating
is
and
David
inspiring.
Copperfield
Thank you
did this
so
trick
much
like
for
20
taking the time
years
to share
ago
them with us
with
and
all
the
the little
entire
water
NAB
things and
audience,
manipulating water and
thousands
making
and
it float
thousands
and stuff.
online.
This is there is absolutely
Congratulations
David
on all your
Copperfield
accomplishments, and we
footage
look
of this
forward to
happening
a
a
lot
long
of live
time ago.
4K UHD from the
This is-
space station for years to come.
That's it?
Thank you.
Don't tell me that's it. Go stick the camera out the window, you worthless liars.
Does that woman have completely black eyes, or is it just me?
She's got a black soul.
No, she's got green eyes. I've got the live feed up, locally, so I don't
Wow.
have to look at it second generation.
Think about the
Station,
technology.
this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
That's it?
Oh
You
my
gotta be
God.
kidding me. Take the camera to the window.
Thank you so much. One more round of applause.
Thank you.
Boo, hiss.
At the Las Vegas Convention Center.
Unfreaking believable.
Standby. We are now resuming operational audio communication.
So,
How many times are they going to play with
number
water
of
bubbles
technologies
in
that goes
the
into
space station?
making an exchange like that possible, seeing how the teams from NASA and AWS Elemental have worked together over the past month, the amount of technology from those networks coming down from the space station,
Networks.
from 4K encoders, from
Encoders.
distribution over CDNs to thin film displays all around the world, it all builds on itself to make something like this possible. And I know I'm deeply honored
Oh,
to be
you're
here
a
today
deep
and be a
dirtball.
part of it. And I want to thank everyone here so much for taking the time to come and see history in the making here at NAB. Thank you.
What?
This guy.
History in the making.
Wow.
All right, next up to explain how this magic actually works. Can Carolyn come back up to the stage, please, along with the panel
Penn and
that's gonna
Teller.
be explaining all the amazing technology to us.
Wow.
Thank you again.
Do we want to keep watching this, or are we done if that's all they're doing?
I don't know. Let's see if there's anything
that was
worthwhile.
very anticlimactic for sure. I mean, maybe it'll get way better here, but I don't know.
Oops, sorry.
Well, that's
it.
Was absolutely pathetic.
Unbelievable. Folks, if you think your $52 million a day is going to good use, I got another thing to tell you.
So let's just take another moment to
I do not want to.
congratulate
Oh, boy.
NASA Services.
What would we congratulate NASA for?
Elemental, and NAB on that amazing first look into the future.
What? That's the future?
What?
I want nothing to do with it.
How was that a first look into the
We'll
future?
talk more about that in a few minutes, but first let me introduce our panelists. Seated next to me is Dr.
I
David
can't watch
Mooney,
this. This is ridiculous.
who's Vice President of Corporate Technology
Unbelievable.
at IBM. Next is
Yeah,
filmmaker Bernie McDade.
That is about as
former
sad
head of
as it
content
gets.
at Discovery
I
Science
can't hear this
Channel.
anymore. I'm done with that.
From every technical aspect, it was so far off. I mean, the first thing they started with was the fact that they were over 2,000 miles off on their position. Apparently, according to the live tracking. Beyond that, the foreground of the two astronauts was crystal clear, and the background was completely blurry. In addition to that, you also had the 11-second delay where they basically blatantly stated it at the very beginning, but when they were talking, you could hear the live audience reacting real time, instantaneously, with absolutely no delay, almost like they were in the next room from them.
Yeah, let me. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say.
I was just going to say.
I'll actually just
All right,
put
you
something
go.
up on the screen right now, real quick. This is from that conversation with Trump, and one of the things I recorded on it was them making a mistake as far as that goes. What happened was Trump was talking
more
to
than
Oops, hold on a
534
second.
days
Turn
in
that volume
space.
down.
This is about 20 minutes.
This is about 20 minutes. So Trump is talking to Peggy and that other guy there, and he says something here towards the end. He's talking to the astronaut next to him, and he says, will you be going to Mars? And then he turns and says, who else will be going to Mars? Who else wants to go to Mars? And both the astronauts on the space station have their hands up. and then realize, oh shit, there's supposed to be a delay, put their hands down, wait, and then put their hands back up. Watch our show too. It's classic.
Wow.
So I think it's right about what's when the girl talks. Where's that girl? Man, have you ever seen his daughter? Is creepy, man.
Yeah, and there's like old photos that are I don't know, I guess you could say like borderline incestual or like indicative of pedophilia as she was growing up, like really inappropriate, attire, like all hugging up to Donald Trump. It's really, really weird.
Trying to find you because it's when that girl talks, the one next to him. Maybe it's here. Let me turn on the volume just so I can see where we're at.
Opportunities that could exist for the next generation of scientists and engineers. Is that something that you think a student, because you have so many students, hundreds of thousands watching, is that something that you think that students should be focusing, or should they be thinking about other subjects? What do you think are the opportunities for young students wanting to be involved in space?
Sir, absolutely. I think that this
He looks
is
so fed up with
probably
it.
the most exciting time in space exploration, certainly in my
He's a
lifetime.
little bit forward back.
I'm so much more impressed with these people. You have no idea. Now, speaking of another impressive person, Ivanka, you've been very much...
Careers is a major priority.
Actually,
Yeah, I think it's right here. Look at the delay.
For me, it was actually the Apollo program.
Oh yeah, it was right before that. Here we go.
What was the impetus for you to get involved in the sciences? Yeah, so when I was to look for disease outbreaks and to do rural health care as well.
That's fantastic.
He just cuts her off. That's fantastic.
Incredible. I've been dealing with politicians so much. I'm so much more impressed.
The
with
part
these
where
people.
they
You have no
do the
idea.
raising the hand was towards the end,
Now,
right?
speaking of another impressive one of entrepreneurship,
I
and
don't know.
business, I think
Go ahead.
time
You
for
can
our
talk while I'm
country
finding
and-
this.
Okay, no, I just say I don't know where that part was. I'm just I have this urge to reach through the screen and jerk off his toupee. That hair is so bad.
It is really bad. And what were you saying, Bob, before I interrupted you? Sorry. You were talking about the delay or something.
Previously. Yeah, no, just that the delay was, there was no delay when the astronauts were talking. You could hear the crowd, the local crowd, react instantaneously. And there was also an echo from feedback, a slight echo, kind of like sometimes you get on a Skype call.
Right.
Which of course tells you that there's absolutely virtually zero delay, maybe something more akin to maybe the next state over or the next room over, but certainly not all the way up at the ISS. And not that there would be any delay up there anyway at 250 miles, which it's just absurd.
We can show 4K video footage, with less delay than that, across the Earth. It makes no sense that it would be 250 miles and we have to wait 11 seconds. This is the part here, though. Watch this.
I'd like to go to Mars very quickly. Who's ready to go to Mars up there?
Yeah, look over here on the screen. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Oh, actually, it's not showing on the live feed. Let me fix that real quick, because that's the problem. Sorry about that. Let me move this back over so we can see over here. Okay. And I'll actually zoom in there so we can see it even better. Okay, there. Now show it. Okay, so watch that screen there. Remember, he just asked it. Who's going to go to Mars?
One of you is ready to go to Mars. Are you ready? And I think you're ready. I know you're ready, right? We just discussed that. She'd like to go to Mars very quickly. Who's ready to go to Mars up there?
And you see they both have their hands up, and then watch them put their hands down. Oops. And then put their hands up again.
We are absolutely ready to go to Mars. It's going to be a fantastic journey.
Good catch.
They're
That's
such
hilarious.
jokers. The other funny part was at one point they're talking and he is not even paying attention. Was that towards the beginning, huh?
Mm-hmm. And he's like,
It's so funny because he's like tapping his. Oh, right there it was, right here. So they're talking and watch Trump,
Bacteria, all sorts
right here.
of things. A couple hours later, I watched our crewmate Thomas Pesquet, a Frenchman.
He's just not paying attention at all. Oh, funny. Too funny. I can't believe how bad that was. That was so bad. I mean,
Yes, and they will never ever take one of those 4K cameras, over to the cupola and point it out the window. It's just never going to happen.
Nope. And I thought that's what this was.
Sure, they may at some point, but of course it'll just be CGI.
Yeah, well,
So
it won't be a
pathetic.
live event or anything like that, but I mean, it was so blatantly obvious that, the 4K gave beautiful, spectacular definition of the two astronauts, but there, once again, the 4K camera apparently has zero depth of field, right? Because everything else was blurry and out of focus behind that. And of course, they're going to say, well, that's because they were, focused on the foreground, and that's absolutely going to be the excuse that's coming from there. But my camera, any camera, my cheapest camera that I've ever had, has never had any problem with focusing on something in the foreground and also having a crystal clear image of something 10 feet behind it. Anybody's camera does that. I think all you have to do is just take your cheesiest low definition camera and you'll find that to be true. But for whatever reason, NASA's 4K cameras, like all their other cameras, are incapable of performing the tasks like standard consumer equipment does. It's beyond belief. It really is.
Yeah, it's disgusting. There's no other way
Well,
to look at it. Go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it. I was just saying it was. I'm just livid because I thought that they were showing the Earth with 4K footage, and it's just embarrassing what people are believing at this point. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. They're obviously cocky enough to keep putting this stuff out there, knowing that people are so invested in the idea of space and in the idea of the universe and the stars and everything else that they could literally put out anything and get away with it. Sad when you can admit that, but
the entirety of that thing was like what, maybe 5 minutes, 10 at the. I don't even think it was 5 minutes, was it?
Yeah, maybe 15
whole
or
ISS
something.
thing.
Who knows?
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes at the very most. But like one of the things, well, first we saw them, tossing the microphone and spinning that around, which is something that they always do as a rule. It's like they have to show off how, weightless they are, right? It's like imperative that they do that. And then we saw them playing with water bubbles, which is something that they always do as a rule. We've seen that millions of times. And in terms of them focusing on the bubble and the background going out of focus, I don't see that as too big of an issue because it's you can focus on infinity and everything would be in focus. But if you sort of close that aperture or whatever, then you're going to get a focus on the bubble as opposed to the background. So that's not. I mean, I see what your argument is, but that's not the biggest deal to me. To me, what was the biggest deal is it looked like they were using, either blue screen or green screen, chroma key technology for the background, because everything in the background was just absolutely JPEG perfect stationary, as far as I could tell. And of course, the whole water bubble thing and the microphone thing can totally be done with CG. The fact that they do have it seemed like about a 10 or 11-second delay gives them an opportunity to even add in CGI, computer graphics on the fly, or the whole thing could be pre-recorded because all of the questions and conversation that transpires during that 5 minutes is all pre-scripted, it's all pre-approved, and so they could very conceivably, pre-record the thing. I mean, even if they are live streaming it, the technology involved with CGI today, especially available to entities such as NASA that have a basically unlimited budget, it just doesn't prove anything whatsoever. And even if they're not using CGI, the technologies exist to create, you can call it zero gravity, but you could also call it an inertially neutral environment by, a parabolic trajectory of some sort of an aircraft. And what really pissed me off about the whole thing is that they were this whole glimpse into the future is just a load of malarkey because we've seen all this before. But they claim that they're inspiring future generations of explorers, but what they are in fact doing is deceiving future generations of possible exploration, because frankly the stars, even humoring a heliocentric model, are just impossible goals. But realizing a flat Earth geocentric stationary model, the stars are just not even anything but mysterious lights in the sky, and so we should be focusing our exploratory efforts parallel to the ground. And instead, NASA is deceiving everyone into, thinking of like Mars as a future destination. It's just
Totally.
so deceptive and insidious.
Hey, Jaron, real quick, maybe if you could go back to the live feed that they're showing, and I've been pasting the link. They're broadcasting the panel in 4K. Now, what I want everybody to pay attention to is this 4K and the depth of field. You can see the audience very clearly in front. You can actually see the hairs on their heads. You can see the panel perfectly. You can see the floor, the plants, and you can see, the individual lights, pixels of the background behind them. All of these things have perfect depth of field. This is exactly what I'm talking about. When they were up on the ISS supposedly, and you had absolutely zero depth of field. The background was completely blurred.
Firstly, it democratizes experience, and it also promotes empathy. And what I mean by democratizing experience is that regardless of your age, size, physical ability, we can take you on a journey to discover this world and beyond to other worlds. So pretty soon, I won't have to go through the rigorous training and be as smart as Tracy is to be an astronaut. I can just pop my goggles on, and how marvelous is that? So I think that's a real advantage. And of course, with empathy, I think particularly in the current political
So
climate,
this you can see clearly. You can see the guy's camera. All of this stuff is blatantly crystal clear from 20 feet back, and the astronauts didn't even have 2 feet away from him, and everything was out of focus. That tells you that backdrop was not even 4K CGI. It was just really standard definition CGI.
And again, don't go off of this view, because this is secondhand or third hand. Click the link and go look at it yourself on the actual 4K transmission.
Play in your work.
Exactly, because on the original 4K with it, because we're only rebroadcasting probably in 720, maybe 1080, I'm not sure. But even in 1080, looking at the 4K broadcast, you can see crystal clear foreground, subject, background, no difference in resolution whatsoever.
Fewer opportunities.
Does it look to you guys like they're using chroma key even for this, or is it just because of the sort of light, bright nature of the background?
It's just the background that's doing that.
To bring this work down
it kind of gives her a little bit of a halo on around her hair effect, but that's just the background that's doing that. And again, that's beautiful definition right there. With absolutely zero loss of clarity in your depth of field. And anybody who knows anything about cameras understands this very well. And so you go back and you look at the astronauts 4K broadcast, and it's blurry as all get out. Anything except for the outlines of the astronauts is blurry. The astronauts are crystal clear, everything else blurry.
Something that you're working on
can't
right
happen
now in using this?
Well, so when I was up on orbit,
it
we
looks
had
so
an
fake.
experiment called
Like
CFE. And
I
it
don't know,
was
just super
crystal
high
fluid,
definition always just look
dynamics,
fake to me unless
and
it's
using
well
shapes
done.
of vessels to,
I don't know.
propel
The first time I
liquids,
watched a movie in super high
point A to
definition
point
on
B, and it
Blu-ray
has
was
its
the
application in
Indiana
fuel tank
Jones
design
Part
for
4, the
spacecraft,
Crystal Skulls
where
one,
you could,
and frankly I couldn't get into it because it looked, I don't know, it just looks like so contrived and fake, you know what I mean? It didn't look realistic.
One of the most important components of setting up this experiment
Like a
is the
2-hour-long
video
beer
camera.
commercial or
And
something,
if
I
you
don't
were to
know.
walk into mission control,
you could probably kill
during
the
one of
audio
these
on it,
experiments,
Jaron.
you would see
I don't know how I would.
very
Oh, you mean here?
huge,
Sorry. I wish I would have seen that.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
I didn't know I could do that.
But yeah,
Hey, look,
I
it
really
says
wanted to...
it says FE behind her.
Actually, it says
All right.
FEC maybe. It could be the Flat Earth Conference they're advertising. November 9th and 10th. Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yep, Raleigh. Everybody go. That's so crazy. But yeah, so everybody definitely, after you watch this, go back, pull it up. We put the link is in the description, and look at what I'm talking about as far as resolution and depth of field. That in and of itself absolutely gives it away as a blatant fake. 100%.
Yeah, it was really bad. Bringing up the Ustream feed just so I can see what they're showing now. This one.
I got to tell you, though, the things that they were doing up there in space were just life-changing, man. The world will never be the same again. Welcome to the future, gentlemen.
All of our problems are now solved,
Yeah, it's amazing they never
Oh,
show
look at
any of
that.
these fantastic science experiments. All they ever show is clown shows.
And they can't even tell you what the experiments are. You know, I was going to do a video, and it's on my list of 1,000 to do. But one of them is they always say the same thing, that, well, we're doing a lot of science, and there's so many science experiments that we're all putting our mind and attention to, and how great it is. You know, it's just the same thing over and over again. And here we got blue screen. Imagine that. Because, you know, those satellites, they can't really communicate all the time, right?
But instead of showing you guys our important experiments, let's play with bubbles, bibbles, bubbles, bibbles, bubbles.
It's ridiculous. Absolute joke. I'm going to see if we can get any video from them. Yeah, pretty bad. I actually thought they were going to show something, and they can't even do that. And when are people going to ask questions? Again, just ask yourself why no one has ever gone to that cupola window at night. I mean, that alone, if you're a believer, if you believe in space, and you can just push things away like that and just say, it's no big deal. Okay, well, they don't show it out the window at night. Big deal. It's ridiculous because it's nighttime half the day, and it's nighttime every 45 minutes or whatever it is, every 90 minutes. So how can you have never shown the Earth at night? Why can't you go to that window that we see the big bright Earth, right? I mean, I'll bring up a video of that. I mean, if you see that big bright Earth when we're looking at the cupola, I don't know how to spell it. Let me see here. Is that spelled right? Probably not. But, you know, you see that big bright Earth out there, and so you'd think that you would be able to easily be able to show it at night. I mean, it's not even a big deal, and they have never shown it, and probably never will, because, you know, they can't. But people
you spell it C-U-P-O-L-A if you're looking for cupola.
How do you spell it?
C-U-P-O-L-A.
Oh, C-U-P-O-L-A.
Uh-huh.
And they should just call it a cupola.
So I mean,
also, I'm getting some comments, Jaron, that they say you should have a flat Earth in here on the description because it's not showing up in any flat Earth feed. But
what happened?
It's not really flat Earth either. Sort of. Just some comments about there's no flat Earth keyword in the feed.
Oh,
itself.
got you. Oh, forget this guy. He'll copyright strike me like he already has.
Yeah. Let's not do that.
Get a NASA feed here. Is this from NASA? Yeah. And are they playing? Okay, so go to the window here. So I mean, this is the window here that we're talking about. Now again, look how close they are. You can see all this. Let me turn this off here. So, I love how it bends like that. So it's a, oh, Jesus Christ. It looks so bad. It just doesn't even look like a ball at all. It makes me laugh that I even ever thought that. I mean, this just is not how a ball would look. But when you look at this and you see what it looks like, so imagine when it's dark outside that you would be able to see all the lights from on Earth. You'd be able to see lights. You'd be able to see city lights like you do see in their, you know, their footage that they show the, you know, week after when they show all the lights and the ball lightning and everything. But they'll never show it live. And that's because they're not going to show you the stars, because based on the stars, you'd be able to determine position, and they would have to be perfect, and they're not even going to attempt that. So you're letting these people flat out lie to your face. They make it as obvious as could be when you're talking about these things. And I understand people want to say, oh, well, all these great scientists all thought the Earth was, how are all these scientists lying? They're not lying. They're just as fooled as everyone else because they're allowing this stuff. And if they were real scientists, they would ask questions as simple as, why don't you show that window at night? Which is half the time. Which means you should have half the videos on YouTube being from that window at night. It's not like you could say they're sleeping. It's not like you're saying, oh, they've just never got around to that. No, there's tons of videos from the cupola, and not one time do we ever see it at night. When they show these, it's not live. You know, these pictures here, these are simply, go ahead.
No, as I say, they're never live, and we'll never see anything like that. Just like, you know, like you were saying, the lightning strikes and all the city lights and all the amazing things that they show. And of course, again, the excuse, what's the excuse? The excuse is, well, it has to go through post image processing to be able to bring all that stuff out, which is is so ridiculous. It's just hard to believe that anybody would believe that, but that is nevertheless their excuse. Like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. We have never, in all the time we have watched the ISS live, we have never even remotely seen anything like this. We've never seen so much as a blip of a light at nighttime ever. And this is just so over the top, such a lie. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolute
Why
CGI
wouldn't they?
for sure.
Why wouldn't they show us the auroras at night? Why, live? It's sickening to me that people are going to just continue letting this go on, because until the world sees it and the world stops it, it's just a few of us isn't going to do anything. We need people to wake up and realize. I understand, because look at every article. I have a Feedly account, or where basically I put in flat Earth and put in some other things, so I get all the news reports every time something pops up about flat Earth. And in every single article, every single time, it is always the same thing, that these ill-advised comments by Kyrie Irving, or these nonsense claims by flat earthers, which these have been taught to people. People don't have a clue what they're talking about. They just keep going on and on about how ridiculous it is and how could anybody believe it. We've always known. Greeks have known. Drop all that. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. I don't care if they thought it was a ball, if they thought it was flat. None of that matters. What matters is what's happening now. And what's happening now is they're lying. Look at that moon. That they're lying about where they are and what they're doing with our money. And regardless of everything else, that's what needs to be really looked at and what people need to wake up to. And I just don't understand how people would buy this shit anymore. It is so clear that they're faking it all.
Yeah, it really is. One thing, everybody out there, I kind of would like to make a request of the viewers and everybody. And I stated earlier that I had seen this done, the trick with the water droplets floating around and doing all that. I am certain I had seen that done by David Copperfield probably at least a couple of decades ago. And I'm sure that some magician somewhere has repeated this trick since. So what I would like to see is, I'm going to look for it myself, but it always helps to have the internet hive mind on it, like Mark Sargent says. But everybody, see if you can find clips of magicians doing tricks with water in this specific, type of bubble, that basically replicating what we just saw them do on the ISS, because this is an old trick. It's a very old trick, and of course somebody has got to be reproducing it somewhere, and I'm sure there's footage of it. But I think it would be, very valuable to have that, to run the comparison between the clown show that the ISS astronauts are producing and what somebody like Penn and Teller or David Copperfield or Chris Angel or David Blaine or whoever is doing this same trick, which just goes. And I think you said that possibly it was even shown on the Big Bang Theory, and I don't remember that specifically, but if so, great. Because then we can just show this stuff to say, this is nothing new. This is nothing more than a simple parlor trick.
The sitcom show The Big Bang Theory, one of the characters, Howard, goes to the ISS for like a month or so, and he does everything from like spin a pen in zero gravity and do silly tricks like the astronauts do, and it looks very realistic, just almost as realistic as NASA's CGI, but it can definitely be done on a relatively low budget, let alone an infinite budget.
Yeah, almost as realistic. It looked exactly the same to me. I think they're using the same set, in fact.
Yeah. I mean, some of the motion seemed a little off, in the Big Bang Theory, but if with trial and error. I mean, that was one show, a 30-minute show. I mean, this is NASA's full-time job, is this stuff, and so they'll get it absolutely right. And of course, they still screw up all the time. I mean, we catch them screwing up all the time, just because they're using several different methods to fake things, and eventually mistakes are going to happen. Which, that sort of leads me to believe they may be live streaming some of it. But even if they're recording it and then playing it back later, editors are going to miss certain things. They're not going to catch everything when they're faking everything. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I tell people, make sure you go and look at anything that you can find that's from the 80s, 70s, 80s. I'll bring up a video, and I don't have the image to show, but I was looking at a 1961 end of the year report on space, and it was, John F. Kennedy era, and I was looking at the library, and what it said was, here's some videos that we did this year that we put out, and it named 15 different videos, and I went looking for them all and found them all. But one of them, it said, we also put out the very first video called Shadows of Infinity. Again, that's Shadows of Infinity, and it says it was the film of the very first man in space, the first American in space, sorry, not first man. And it said that it was well received in all these countries, and that went to 45 different countries that had TVs. And so I went looking for this video, and I can find it nowhere. And that's the kind of thing that I know that they can do, is they must have faked something in that video, and that's why they've gotten rid of it. So, but it's in this report, this Kennedy report, and again, it's called Shadows of Infinity. Look around if you want to try and find it. I bet you it is an absolute gem, because they got rid of it for some reason. You can find all their other videos, one of them being like experiments in space, and I'll show that. And this report talks about how great the United States is, because they show you their failures and their successes, whereas Russia only will show you their successes and that they're communist. And, it's just the same propaganda you get all the time in this document. But the document also names one of the most prominent videos that went out that year in '61 was a video called Shadows of Infinity. So please look for that. I looked yesterday for a good 2 hours, archive.org and other places trying to find it. I could not find even a sentence about it. But obviously it went out. This is in the documentation for that year, saying that they sent it to all these different countries. It was well received. So anyway, I'm putting it out there. If you find it, I bet you it's a great video to look at. And that's, if you go to garage sales, look for old VHSs. A lot of people would have filmed stuff off TV, or not filmed, sorry. They would have recorded stuff off TV. And that's where you're going to find these gems. Bob, do you want to talk about this real quick? A little bit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Before I do, though, somebody in the chat said, look up David Copperfield floating mirror ball. And I'm watching that right now. And that's close, but it's not done with water. But essentially same type of actions and weird stuff like that. But it just goes to show you that it can be done easily by magicians. The water part, I know somebody has done, but anyway. Okay, so on this, many of you, I'm sure, saw GeoShifter's video, NASA Challenger, how did they fake it? And when I first saw this, Geo sent it to me on Skype and wanted to know what I thought of it. And, my reaction was, wow, that was absolutely over the top, really incredibly good. And then I found the source footage on that. And the source footage actually was shot second generation off of a TV screen. In fact, they actually even state that in the original video that they're talking about. So when you look at it very closely, you can see that it actually appears to be a reflection. And the only reason that I bring this out is not to take anything away from Geo's discovery, but it does appear to me that after watching the animated GIF over and over and over again, which we're seeing here, that the face that we're seeing behind it, you can see the guy's shiny forehead and his eyes and his nose. Right. And it actually, where the circle is, you can see the transparency. And we actually had one of the trolls, of course, send this to me, which is great, or it was posted on there. But I have to say that I unfortunately agree with this, that this was most likely shot off of a television screen, and what we're seeing is a reflection. However, there is one point in the video that I do not think was any type of strange mistake, and that is where you can see the space shuttle, and then all of a sudden they turn the Earth lights on. Now, the claim by this same person was that all they did was change the aperture. However, that is not true. If you look at that closely, you can see, and you don't have this queued up, Darren, or anything, but I'm sure everybody knows this footage I'm talking about, because Mark Sargent, IPS, a lot of people have actually mirrored it. But there is a part in there where Geo says, oh, look, and they turn the lights on the Earth, and it lights up everything. And like I said, the particular person that pointed this out said, oh, no, that's just because they changed the camera aperture. But the problem with that is the shadows. There is a distinct shadow change, which means that it was indeed the Earth that was lighting up. And so that part of it was legitimately fake, if that makes any sense. But I just wanted to put that out there because otherwise this could be used. It probably might have been used as a red herring, to kind of get everybody, going on this and, make this big uproar. And then somebody's going to come out clearly showing the debunking on it. And call us all a bunch of idiots because we're doing this. So I think it's much better that, we within the community kind of point this out. And this is my opinion. And of course, people are free to disagree with me. But personally, what I see here is indeed a reflection, most likely from a second generation, shot off of a television screen. And you're actually catching the cameraman there who has a very sweaty forehead.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it.
Well, I downloaded it and put it into a video editor and just sort of zoomed in on it. I'm looking at it kind of from different viewpoints. It's definitely bizarre. I'll look more into it, and if I find anything that jumps out at me, I'll let you know. But really weird looking face, whatever it is.
I want to show you guys something I found the other day, and hopefully I can find it here again. So this was just one of the regular ISS things that I always watch, and look at that. There's your panels. As this thing's going on, you got to see what happens here, because I couldn't explain it. So they're just showing this view. Let me find exactly where it happened, because I recorded all 8 hours of it, and you'll actually see them doing a test inside. I'm trying to find it. Hold on a second. Look how ridiculous this thing is. Oh, was that it? No, I'll find it 1 second. Just because this whole thing's 8 hours, that's why it's
Yeah, it's a little difficult to find when you've got 8 hours of stuff to go through. But anyway, yeah. So I just want to point that out to everybody because, again, I honestly believe that part of the disinformation campaign that's being launched against Flat Earth is to come out with certain footage as kind of bait to see if people will take it. And it looks very legitimate initially, but unless you really, really sit there and analyze it, sometimes it's easy to miss. And sometimes people in their excitement try and get this stuff out there. And believe me, there is enough legitimate NASA fakery out there that is easily debunked that we don't necessarily have to hang on to stuff like this. And I would encourage Gio and everybody else to keep looking at the old stuff, because they definitely make a lot of mistakes in the old stuff, and it's very easy to call out stuff like this. But because of the fact that on the original video they even talk about it being captured second generation off of a TV screen, and the fact that that reflection appears to look transparent, I am inclined to agree with that particular assessment that it is just a reflection and it wasn't necessarily part of the NASA CGI fakery.
Yeah.
That's may very well be true. I'm looking at it zoomed in. One thing that seems kind of odd to me, and maybe I can do a screen share here in a minute, but whatever the thing is, it doesn't appear to be, if it's a reflection from a TV screen, then the reflection should also be in front of the white area. But it really actually looks like whatever this is behind the white area. And
well,
it's not...
I think the reason you're not seeing it in the white area, John, is because there's too much of a contrast there. You see it more in the darker areas.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying, but then like if you go in and sort of adjust the brightness and contrast, which I'm still sort of fiddling with, you should be able to see that reflection, changing the tones of that white area, and and I'll fiddle around with it a little bit more, but it really does appear as if that whatever that thing is actually behind the white area. But let me just fiddle around with it a little bit, and then once I've got something that's, I'll have a couple different versions that are visible, I can maybe share screen.
Absolutely, and I think that's good, John, because that's exactly what we need to do. Because yes, to me it appears that it's second generation off of a TV screen. However, all I'm saying is that on footage like this, we need to scrutinize it a lot, very heavily, because otherwise we'll put it out there and we will take flack. I mean, people know this is what happens. We will take flack and be called down that we're complete morons, that we can't even do simple type photo analysis. And there may be something to this. Like I said, the other part of the video where they turn on the earth light, that is absolutely, positively not a product of opening the lens aperture, because there are shadows and reflections that actually change. That would not happen if it was simply an aperture change. But when they turn on the light bulb of the earth behind it, that to me is irrefutable. But even that should be scrutinized, and people should do what John is doing and download it, and do some zooms on it and some contrast changes and stuff like this. And we may even find something even more interesting by doing that. But stuff like this definitely needs to be scrutinized very heavily, or we will be setting ourselves up for ridicule that is undue.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy's name, Bob, is Ron Hatch. Have you heard of him? That I was talking about earlier.
Heard the name, but don't know much more about that.
Yeah, I'll put it in the video that's coming out that I'm finishing up. It's about excuse me, about the spinning Earth, because he basically is kind of the answer. That he found the pre-programmed. Basically, he programmed relativity, or they programmed relativity into the GPS code, and he found it. And then they hired him and put him up, but now he goes around saying that clearly relativity is false, because basically actually, I'll let you listen to these two parts of this video, because so we cancel this, and the video we're watching here is called Alan Shepard World Watches an Experiment in Space. It's just another one of those videos that I had never heard of and got it out of that catalog, or the year-end review, the same one that talked about infinity, or Shadows of Infinity. And yeah, this is just really bad, and they basically launch him out here, it drops again, and then this time they actually admit that he ends up in the water. They don't admit that anymore. But so this Ron Hatch, I want you to hear something he says, which is absolutely amazing. He's at an Electric Universe conference, and he's speaking anti-relativity here. But what he says is, in regards to the whole idea of clocks, you know how they have the relativity idea that a clock higher up moves different speed than a clock on the ground. Right. So watch what he says here.
Yeah, and velocity supposedly has to do with it as well. Yeah.
Oh, I saw this now, and now I know why it's familiar.
If you have questions,
okay.
Let's listen to him real quick, because this is classic right here.
These are the last one there hasn't been accepted yet, but I'm fairly confident it will be in the near future now. It's been in process of 2 years fighting with some of the reviewers. Okay, now into some of the questions and answers. I've tended to put in red things that I disagree with, and I haven't followed that carefully, and green things that are true. And here's some things about GPS that I think they have pictured properly. And one of those is, what effects does gravitational potential have on an atomic clock? Clocks higher in the gravity field run faster, and also in motion, what does kinetic energy, not just velocity, but kinetic energy, speed of movement, have on atomic clock rates, and it slows them down. And there's clear evidence for this. GPS in an elliptic orbit, it's not highly elliptic, but elliptic enough. When it's near perigee, it's going faster and it's lower in the gravity field. The two effects are identically equal and add together. And in fact, the equations in different uses sometimes will compute the velocity and use that and double it, and sometimes they'll compute the potential and double that. Similarly, on the surface of the Earth, because we're spinning, a clock at the equator, for example, is farther away from the center of the Earth. It's got a lower gravitational potential, and that higher gravitational potential, higher up, causes it to run faster, but it's spinning, which causes it to run slower, and they exactly cancel each other, so that if you had a mean sea level all the way around the Earth, all the clocks would run at the same rate.
Huh?
Gravitational potential, and that higher gravitational potential, higher up, causes it to run faster, but it's spinning, which causes it to run slower, and they exactly cancel each other, so that if you had a mean sea level all the way around the Earth, all the clocks would run at the same rate. Kind of interesting.
Kind of interesting.
Which causes it to run slower.
Oh, I just think that's great.
That's crazy. You know, the thing that I thought about immediately, you know, of course, when they're talking about this quote unquote gravitational effect causing these changes, is if the atomic clocks are up at a lot higher altitude, we're also going to have quite a difference in static potential charge at that altitude as well, which is going to create a dipole effect even in the atomic clocks. So even though NASA never ever mentions this, or anybody, because I think that, you know, we're kind of turned away from even looking at things in that particular perspective. To me, the charge potential at higher elevations could have a very profound effect on the atomic clocks. Now, I don't know this for sure, but it just seems like it is a reasonable assumption, and something that you know, we could probably follow up on at some point. But just my 2 cents worth on that.
Yeah, he's and if you want to find a good article, it's called it's on Inside GNS. But basically, he is you know, responsible for GPS the way it is, and has a lot to do with it, and flat out says that there's no way that relativity is true. He says it's just the you know, the observations that it's almost like a pseudo relativity, but you know, the whole thing comes down to it's never been proven that we do spin. And, you know, that's what my next video is going to be on, because people need to know that, because there's a reason why we were not taught something so simple. In fact, if relativity is true, so let's go ahead and give them that much, and I'll show you this article real quick. But if relativity is true, then that means that there is no way that anybody can say anything is going around anything else, that it's all relative. So if you're standing on the sun, well, then of course it looks like the Earth is going around you. And if you're standing on the Earth, then it looks like the sun is going around. And so either one is not even scientifically up for debate. And yet we were taught that one is a fact. Go ask somebody whether or not the Earth spins and whether or not the Earth goes around the sun, and they'll laugh at you and say, of course the Earth goes around the sun. But that's not a scientific statement, not in a world of relativity. If it's relativity is true, then there is no way you can say either thing is happening. It's not a scientifically valid question or conclusion, and yet it's, you know, taught to us as children. It's forced down our throat. They knew this long ago, etc., etc., and it's just disgusting, really.
Right. Yeah. You know, that's absolutely true. And the thing about that, like I said earlier, relativity is just this bunch of gobbledygook, because essentially on the one hand, they tell us that everything is in motion, and they even give us specific velocities of everything that is in motion. And yet, when you introduce the idea of relativity in it, even though there is supposedly all this relative motion, the relativity takes all of that away and makes it that, well, with respect to each other, there really is no motion because it's all relative, right? Which, you know, you think about that and you kind of go, huh? And that is exactly what it is meant to make you do.
Exactly.
You just kind of go, huh? Yeah. And so you're right. Nobody has ever been able to prove the rotation of the Earth or any motion or anything like that. But beyond that, I mean, the rotation of the Earth is an absolute pittance compared to the velocities that, you know, velocities both linear and angular, that we are experiencing while we are going around the sun, going around the Milky Way, going around the Great Attractor, on and on and on. Yet no experiment from Earth has ever been able to detect that until, of course, now they tell us that the ring laser gyros are capable of doing that. But now they're kind of revising that, which I'll cover next week on Globebusters, to only the largest ring laser gyros are capable of doing that. And of course, my rebuttal obviously is going to be, well, if that's true, then how is Honeywell doing it in the airliners, which is a huge problem. But we'll cover that on Globebusters on Sunday.
If I'm not mistaken, too, Honeywell had something to do with Hatch. I think he worked for them or something.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, yeah. And of course, they further convolute it by all the math and everything like that. There's never any straight up, and that's one of the most amazing things. People keep sending me these documents that say, "Oh yeah, it's been done many, many times before," but instead of any actual demonstrations that shows, an absolute linear display output. All they show you is these mathematical equations and say, yep, see, there it is. We're moving. It's like, no, I don't think so. It's pretty
Right.
bad.
And to me, the biggest problem with relativity is that it's basically a theory to explain away an impossibility, right? So Einstein would claim that the speed of light is constant, and so if you've got say an object that's traveling 100 miles an hour, putting off a beam of light, compared to a stationary object putting off a beam of light in the same direction, two parallel beams of light, those two beams of light would be traveling at the same speed, and it would be time itself that changes in order to allow for this. And I mean, to me, this is just it's theoretical, and I hate to use such a vulgar term, but I mean, it really is fitting. It's theoretical masturbation. It's sort of self-gratifying, changing the laws of nature. And really, time, I mean, it truly is sort of a human construct. There are arguments for time, but really, more or less, we live in sort of an eternal now. And keeping track of time is just merely like a human construct. And to say that time is going to be the thing that dilates in order to allow for the consistency of the speed of light, regardless of whatever frame of reference it's being projected from. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the sort of thing that's never going to be proven, much like E equals mc squared. Yet we take these things to be laws, which is just, I mean, it really, it's a crime, and it's not science whatsoever. I did go through that video clip several times under several different gammas, and yeah, it definitely appears as if towards the bottom right, it is a reflection that goes in front of that sort of darkened area of the white object. So yeah, I would agree with you, Bob, that it is a reflection of somebody in the television.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I think it is. And of course, like I said, not trying to take anything away from GeoShifter or anybody like that, but we just kind of have to look out for our own stuff like that. And I was taken in by it 100%. I looked at that, and I was very excited about it and thought, oh wow, this is another really great one. Of course, we've got lots of those really great ones, and so yeah.
There's another thing too, and this is so funny. I just thought of this, but this is another Indiana Jones reference. But there was a scene in I think it was part 2 or whatever. But he falls. That maybe it was the first one. But he falls face down in a pit, and he comes literally face to face with a cobra, a king cobra, about 6 inches from his face. Now, in the digitally remastered one, you can't see this, and this isn't a Mandela effect. They just remastered it digitally. But in the original old one, I noticed that you could actually see there was a pane of glass in between Indiana Jones and the actual cobra that was literally 6 inches from his face. And so perhaps this could be maybe not a reflection of the person shooting from the TV, but perhaps they could have been using some sort of a pane of glass in shooting this fakery, and maybe it is a reflection of some sort of a cameraman or stagehand who's behind the fourth wall, so to speak.
Yeah, it very well could be. There's a lot of possibilities, and so we just need to weed those out. And there's so much gold in our old archives that I think that we're going to be coming up with more and more and more of it. And we have all these newcomers that are coming into the community, like Archer Sage and other people, and that are exposing all of this fake footage. And yeah, so we just need to make sure that we are accurate, and we have to definitely check our sources. And things like, you wouldn't expect somebody to be shooting, because actually it looks fairly decent, for something that was done almost 30 years ago, using the old style VHS and 480 resolution, actually shooting at a television screen. It looks pretty good for that, overall, but just something to keep in mind. So what are we looking at?
Oh, just more nonsense.
More nonsense.
I was
Yes.
looking at
Okay.
this thing
All
here.
kinds of good stuff like that.
This thing connecting here, you can watch it. I was just kind of playing it at a speed where you can see it floating right there. Funny. Yeah, what I found, and I'm trying to figure out where the video is that I recorded it on, but I guess they were doing some sort of test, but it was clearly them. It almost looked like galaxies colliding, but they were just doing it with food coloring. I don't know. I wanted to show you because it looks like what they use to fake the idea of galaxies and stuff. I'll have to find it. I'm still trying to find it. I'll let this keep playing while I'm doing that. But I wanted to show you that because it is really interesting, and I couldn't find anybody or anything about it telling me what it was. But yeah, I find so much of this bad stuff. You just go to that ISS Live channel because they list all the videos are still there. You know, I mean, when they pass, you can still go back and look at, time before, and find out a date that they had this thing come up, and then you can go see that. And clearly, to me, it's just obvious that what you're seeing there, the Earth right there, is either a screen, or it's been bent, and this is just done with models. I don't know. What do you think?
What year was that from?
This one here is just this year.
Yeah, I mean, anything that's relatively modern, I would have to say that I think it's a combination of real high altitude footage for certain shots, along with CGI animations, and then just basically chroma key or different layers of animated images.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, Jaron, it's getting to be so hard because there is so much video technology out there that, animation almost is no longer necessary at all these days. In fact, a lot of the CGI can be done real time. And I don't know, maybe I think somebody has done a video on it. In fact, I know they have. I've seen it before. But you can take, for example, a CGI animation of like Obama, and then have his picture up there, and then put another camera on somebody else and have them talking and recording their facial motions and
I remember
expressions and everything like that. Yeah, and they can literally transpose those facial motions onto the image of Obama, and it looks absolutely real, like he is talking. And this is software that is available on the consumer market, and of course, if NASA and the government agencies truly have, video technology that is far, far beyond us, which, by the way, I doubt, because if they did, they wouldn't have such crap that they put out, for example, like today's broadcast, when you have a blatant lack of depth of field in the 4K resolution image, as far as against the probably 1080 or less CGI background that they've got. But the point is that in the consumer market today, we do have that technology to do this real time, absolutely real time. And in fact, one of the things that I found really interesting is that Clues Forum did a big, several articles on this where they were kind of making the assertion that Edward Snowden was possibly not even a real person. And they were showing that their evidence to this was they were showing particular backgrounds and shots, camera shots, that simply were not possible, in a realistic live environment. And they actually accumulated a lot of really good evidence for that. So, we've all seen the Snowden, interviews, and it's interesting. He's always on a video monitor, kind of like Max Headroom and stuff like that. But it just goes to show you that, they are very undoubtedly using that type of technology. And of course, when the very best of this technology comes out, of course, the government agencies are going to be the first one to have it. So just something to be aware of. CGI has gotten really, really good. It's just unfortunate that NASA and their videographers and video artists are such idiots, and they're not really utilizing it to their best potential.
All right, watch this,
Well,
Bob. I just
go
want to
ahead.
show you this. That they're doing some sort of test, and this was on the live feed. Now I don't know why this is being shown, but they zoom in here, and then it switches to this background, and for some reason you're like, well, what's this? What are these supposed to be, stars or something? And as you fast forward this, wait till you see what starts happening here. Let me see if I can find it. And then it go blue screen.
RGB stars.
Yeah, really weird. And let me see when it comes back. Come on. because then they have these things explode, and it's like, I don't know why they would show anybody this, because it really, come on, find this thing. Maybe it's here. Yeah, watch this. I'll let it play from there. But it's just crazy that they would show this, because to me it's like, okay, so now they're doing it there, but look at, like, they're like, I don't know, it's like they're telling you how they do things here. Because this
That
kind of
looked like a little water droplet.
Yeah, it was, I think. And then they're like sending some sort of light through it. But I mean, really, the whole thing looks like what we see. Is that the end of this one? The other one's actually a little bit, I recorded 3 of them, but I'll show you. Because see these things like happening out here? Like this kind of almost reminds me of the rocket, view. But let me find you. There's a better one where they blow up and actually look like galaxies. And I know I recorded 3 different videos, so it might be one of the other 2. But I found them now, so they're right here. Let me try a different one here. And let's try this one. But it's this is the whole thing with the little thing leaving the Soyuz. And this one might not be it either. Because then they went right back to that experiment, so it must be this one. Yep, whoops.
That was an interesting new view of what I have called the SO239 connector. Now it looks like they changed the white background part of it, so it doesn't look so much like an SO239 connector anymore. And what that is, guys, if you don't know, it's just a connector that goes on the end of like coax for like ham radio antennas and stuff like that. There's the female side is the SO239, the male is the PL259, and yeah, I've commented many times that on the ISS it looks like it's lined with SO239 connectors.
Huh. That's funny. And one thing I was going to mention is that in terms of NASA faking, images of the Earth, even though, yeah, they kind of suck in terms of CGI, they have an advantage because everybody can observe things like, for example, birds flying in the sky. And if somebody does poor CGI of birds flying in the sky, then you can tell because we have something to compare it to in real life. Another example would be like we can observe buildings being demolished, through controlled demolition. So we know what that looks like. And if somebody does a CGI of that and it's poorly done, then that's obvious and we can tell. But when it comes to the hypothetically spherical Earth, nobody's ever seen that from space, right? So we don't have anything to compare it to. And so basically NASA can do whatever they want. And as crappy as their images are, starting with the blue marble and all its problems, and then, all of the recent images we get, they can pretty much write sex in the clouds and nobody can say anything about it because what do we have to compare it to? Does that make sense? I mean, it's almost as if they have an advantage because they can be the worst CGI modelers ever and still get away with it because there's no frame of reference, to compare it to.
Did you see that right there?
Actually, oops.
I'll show you right here. I just want to watch this because tell me what's happening here, right here. So it's playing. I know it doesn't look like it is, but in a second there'll be some sort of reaction. I just don't understand why they've got this, what looks like a star background, and then there'll be this right here. What's going on here? Now there's some sort of bright lights, and then look at this.
That's interesting. It almost looks like they're. Oh, look at that! You know what that looks like? Is that looks like those little toroidal things that we showed in the old.
Absolutely.
The experiment, yeah. Or the tether loss thing,
the little Pac-Man dudes.
Yep.
That was pretty crazy.
And
so maybe it's some sort of a plasma experiment.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it certainly looks like, everything that they tell us is... There's another one. Let me see this one. Yeah, Miss and I were trying to watch this, and we were just like, what is going on here? Let's see. Here's this one.
Is there any audio narrative to it?
Nope, not at all. That's the audio right there.
Oh, hey, that sounds good.
Yeah, really good. But the next one that happens is even... Oops, I thought it was on this one. Where is it at? Not able to really see well.
You would think that when they are doing something technical like this, there would be a narrative in the background.
That's what I said, or at least text and tell us what's going on. Some text on the screen or something. Because I don't know what they're trying to show here. Let me see, is it here where it happens? Yeah, there's just some crazy one. I mean, like the spiral galaxies and stuff that we see, that they do something that makes that out here in this black. Where is this blackness coming from? Or these stars? I mean, I don't even know how that's being shown. It just should tell people that, again, it's easy for them to use overlays. It's easy for them to use CGI. This may be an experiment going on here, but then they've got this field background, which is not obviously real. I mean, that much I think you can figure out.
What they may be trying to do, Jaron, is make in the lab some of these experiments that replicate what we're seeing out in the cosmos. Because, you know, I've said this before, when you're dealing with electrical phenomenon, the nice thing about it is that generally any phenomenon that you can generate in a lab that's small can always be scaled, because all you basically have to do is up the power, right? A little more voltage, a little more current. You have a larger gas environment. So if what they could be doing is they could be trying to create conditions in a lab, you know, on a small scale plasma, and then feeding it to us and saying, yeah, this is what we're seeing out in the cosmos. And then of course you got the guys over at Thunderbolt's project, you know, that are, you know, for the most part legitimate physicists. They look at this and what they see, of course, is what they want to see at that point, is say, oh, yep, Hannes Alphen or Christian Birkeland reproduced this, you know, did experiments like this in the lab. There's absolutely evidence to back up this type of phenomenon, what we're witnessing here, except the difference is they would be being told, of course, that this is happening 2,000 light years away or further or whatever. So this may be, you know, just them experimenting with small scale plasma to be able to then claim for legitimacy and other legitimate physicists looking at this, that this is going on out in the galaxy somewhere.
You got me.
Very good possibility. Yeah, I would almost bet that that's exactly what they're going to be doing with it. So maybe we should just kind of keep this in mind and see if it shows up on a news feed in the near future. That, oh, look at this phenomenon that we're seeing out here in space. And of course, they've already got the star fields behind it, right?
You see that?
Yeah. Very interesting.
Let's see that one more time.
I mean, this almost looks like it could be convincing, like it's something out in space anyway.
That's what I mean.
You know, like.
And watch this part here. There's going to be some explosion right here. I don't even think it's real, but I mean, you know.
No, but it could be. You know, like I said, something that is being done in a plasma field in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it definitely seems to be like ionized gases, you know, electrically charged gases.
Okay, so they are testing how fire burns in 0G. It's not water, it's fuel. Yada, yada. Okay, testing how fire burns in 0G. Wow, you think they'd be able to just, you know, point a camera at their little rockets. Because the rockets, you know, showing fire burning in 0G doesn't look anything like that, Sean. Sorry. So again, I think this is something else that they're trying to do, but we don't know, do we? And it's amazing that Sean Hufford just, you know, comes right up with the answer. He knows.
Is that supposed to be like inside the pressurized ISS?
Where's Sean in the chat? Where'd you see Sean?
He's in the chat.
Oh, so Sean, maybe you could tell us all, why do you think that the astronauts have never shown the ISS live at night out the cupola? What would be the excuse for why that would never have been seen one time? Considering half the time they're in the daylight, half the time they're at night. So half and half over 15, 16 years, or however long the cupola has been up there. I would love to hear what excuse somebody would possibly make other than, we should look into that. That's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm. Well, and of course, you know, like I said, they come out with it, you know, post-production and show it. But, you know, in the 2 years that we've been watching, we've never even seen so much as a blip of light, let alone these extravagant post-production features.
Yeah, I don't mean after the fact. I mean live. Like,
yeah, live.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We'll never see it live, ever.
Nope.
Right.
I mean, even what we do see live isn't realistic, because how many times have you gone outside, Jaron, as well as me, when the ISS is passing over either late in the evening or early in the morning, and, you know, we look at the live feed and the whole United States is covered with clouds, and, you know, Denver is perfectly clear, and I'm sure this happens all over the place. It is fake. That's why.
The other thing that I
Pretty
think
easy.
we need to figure out, or somebody needs to figure out, is, and I've seen it twice, and I know somebody who just made a video about it. I don't know if I could find his channel. He just made his first video about it. Is the most recent Soyuz launch that took the 3 astronauts up or whatever. Have you ever seen how they always have like a little teddy bear hanging from the ceiling? Like there's always some
Right.
little toy hanging from the ceiling. And when they're taking off, we know that they're sitting with their backs to the ground. Their backs are parallel with the ground. And you can see that little toy is hanging in their face. It's hanging down in front of them. And then as they go up, you can see the rocket totally become horizontal. But the hanging animal never changes. The hanging animal stays hanging in the direction it was hanging, which makes no sense. If you haven't hit space yet, why wouldn't the hanging animal have to be, have to follow the rules of gravity? And maybe I can bring that up. I'll show that one because I think I did get, let me see if I can find the link, because the guy sent me an email saying that he made his first video and made it on this item, and I think he points it out well. And actually, I bet I can just find it by searching. I'll show you what I mean.
Yeah. Well,
Because it's another one of those things that
think-
just can't be explained.
I think they kind of burned themselves, especially in that video that Nathan was showing, with the wipe, the astronaut being wiped in and wiped out. They always seem to have things in the background to kind of legitimize, what we're seeing. Like, for example, during the 4K feed, there was a point where an astronaut, a couple times actually, was coming, back and forth down the tube behind them. Of course, it was in very, very low resolution. But they try and keep these things in there to add legitimacy to it so that people aren't saying, well, that's just a complete static background. So they either put the motion in the background CGI itself, or they will have things in the foreground that, appear to be right there with the astronauts. And of course, Nathan busted that one wide open when he showed that the motion of those flags was absolutely fluid when they wiped the astronauts in, to do the next segment of the broadcast. So again, it's all part of the trickery to add legitimacy to what we're seeing or what we think we're seeing.
I'm going to bring it up, but now we're at a good part of these little experiments over here. I see something happening back there.
Yeah, and another thing, if they want to test to see how fire burns in space, why don't they just take a Bic up there and light it up?
No, they need all this extravagant stuff. I'm going to flip to this real quick here. Transition. Let me pause this. Okay, so this is a Soyuz launch here. And, okay, so we know that they are backs to the ground, and we'll see that here in a second as it goes up. But that's how they launch. So right here, this is how, bring this back up. Okay, so we see that this little girl is hanging from a rope, which is nice, right? Hang this girl by her neck. This is exactly what we should be doing, idiots. So this thing's going up. Their backs are to the ground. The backs are parallel. So as the rocket tips over into the horizontal position, then where should that girl go?
Above their head.
Yeah, it should come forward like a plumb line. It would be, it would, according to the heliocentric theory, it should be attracted towards the center of the Earth.
Which would be to our right, right?
Right. And when I said above their head, I meant what Morgal said, to swing out over and above their head like that.
Yeah.
Is what I think it should do.
Okay, so as they're going up now, when they show the rocket, hopefully this is, and I've never seen this one. This may be one that they can't really see because they're not showing the rocket go horizontal, which we know they all do, right? They all go horizontal. So
every time.
Right. So at this point, now they've been up there 4 minutes. We know that the rocket's horizontal, yet the girl is still hanging down this way. Now, why wouldn't she be hanging with the force of gravity? Meaning now these guys are sitting perpendicular almost to the Earth. So this should not be hanging this way anymore.
I know.
Go ahead.
At least I know what their excuse is going to be. They're going to say that the reason that she remains that way is because of the G-force acceleration.
That's nonsense. I thought they were going to say that too. It's just nonsense.
Well, that's my 2 cents. I think it's nonsense too, but that is going to be the answer. I guarantee it. So
she's going to stay completely equal? I mean, so if you have a rope and then you start going horizontal, that item is going to stay perfectly where it is? Because, I mean, it doesn't move.
Right. Well, yeah, but think about this for a second. Say you start out horizontal, okay, and then you fire off, going horizontal instead of vertical.
Okay.
and the doll is initially hanging vertical, right? As soon as you fire off that rocket with a high G-force going horizontal, it's going to pull that doll horizontal itself, right? Because of the G-force. It's no longer going to be, pointing down towards gravity, so to speak, towards the Earth. But, it's kind of like if you take something and you tie it under the end of a stick and you whip that stick forward, whatever's tied under the end of the stick is going to go out horizontal.
So this guy's like notepad. It wouldn't, you would see none of those forces on, I'm sorry, I'm not low enough. You wouldn't see any of the forces on these notepads or anything, that they would be, the pages would be furling this way? Nothing? That the only...
Yeah, you would think that, and there's a disconnect. Obviously, there's a disconnect there. There's a problem with that. They didn't think about that because, and that's why I think that doll may be not even necessarily there. It could be an after effect put in. I don't know, but you're right. There should be matching motion to some degree on some level between the pages of those notebooks and what the doll is doing. Because everything is supposedly moving together, right?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Is it just doesn't seem to make any sense that that's how it would work. That basically there's so much force on. Oh, wait a second. Where was that? Did you see that?
I missed it. I'm sorry.
How did the Earth just appear? I don't know. Am I having this live? You see that? Look at the Earth appear in the star backfield. I don't know why they showed that, but right here, like there's no Earth, then all of a sudden you'll see it like come from the left side here. Watch. Oops, did I miss it?
Yeah, you got the couple now.
Go a little bit back further. Okay, right here. Watch this.
I'm seeing the sunrise and then go away, and then it's coming from the other side. You're not reversing this?
No, I'm playing. It's just playing. See, but that's not a sunrise because there's nothing there. You can see stars behind it.
Probably only part of the fluorescent lights on the fake Earth were lighting up.
Let me look closer here. Maybe I'm not seeing something right here.
Oh man.
Oh, and another thing that should be mentioned in terms of the whole lightning strikes thing, which you never see live, but that you see a lot of that sort of thing after the fact, where they've obviously added in with CGI. But if you look at meteorologists who are responsible for predicting tornadoes, currently they can predict tornadoes about 15 minutes ahead of time, and about if NASA allowed these meteorologists real-time access to the lightning strike frequency from satellite data, then tornado experts could increase their warning time significantly. But for some reason, NASA won't allow them access to the real-time satellite feeds of that could monitor lightning strikes. And I think that the big answer why is because they're not actually up there in satellites.
Yeah, well, that much is certain. So yeah, I mean, obviously you have to go with the assumption, that everything that we're being shown there is fake, and all we have to do is just kind of deconstruct the mechanism in which they're faking it. Because clearly the ISS is not up there orbiting around at 17,000 miles an hour. Spaceships are not being shot up into that orbit. Or if things are going into what we would consider a low Earth orbit, you have to ask yourself, what exactly is the definition then, the real definition of low Earth orbit, right? Because obviously they can go up pretty high, but how high exactly is it? Don't know. I tend to think it's probably somewhere in the vicinity of 100 miles, but till I get up there, I don't know.
Okay, so this is a good one here. So see this little pen tool here, and look what you've done to children. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So now we know that their backs are sitting parallel. So now I see what you're saying about but this is a pretty heavy item. So what you're saying is that as it tips forward here, now we see the rockets tipping forward, that this pen, in my opinion, should fall to the right, or right as you're looking at the screen. Look at it, it's totally leveling off, and the pen is, so the G-forces are so strong that they're pushing that pen in the direction, that's what it's supposed to tell us. I mean, it's such nonsense. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
I agree. And I'm not sure there would be that much oscillation. Of course, they'll say the oscillation is because of the vibration of the rocket engines, which, you know, again, you got to kind of give them that one because that's a distinct possibility. But I agree with you that that much acceleration, and the astronauts don't seem to even show any
No.
indication that like he's moving his head around, no problem. They don't look strained.
Moving his arm up.
Trying to move their arms.
I mean, imagine there's a
Yeah.
force that's pushing that pen at you, and you're just able to move your arms up like that, give thumbs up. Your notebook isn't doing anything. The pages of the notebook are going nowhere. And
Yeah, that would be impossible. Like, what are the G-forces supposed to be when they're in that sort of ascent? It's multiple G-forces, right?
It would have to be.
And look at this
It would
in
have
the-
to be at that acceleration.
Through
Like
the window.
if you've ever been on the gravitron at the fair, man, try like holding your arms out in front of you. It's really, really hard. And yeah, they're just like lifting their arms like it's nothing, which yeah, that makes no sense at all.
And look at here. So this looks to me now like maybe they're going upside down, right? Because this is space and this is supposed to be the Earth. So
right,
the pen would go to the right then here, go this way.
Right.
Should fall down there. So
Yeah.
I was wrong because I thought they were going upright. I thought they were sitting upright. It looks like they went backwards.
Yeah, and I'm also not seeing any motion in any other things. Like it looks like they've got a bookshelf, to the right of that one astronaut, and you're not seeing one iota of motion from anything over there, any vibrational or anything. Of course, I'm sure they would say that that's because there's not enough resolution to see it. But, again, with that much force and vibration and all this stuff going on, you'd think you would see something.
I would think so too, yeah. And you just always see nothing, yeah. And I've watched those. For some reason, they put that pen there. I don't know why they put that pen there to start with.
Well, again,
or whatever the item
because
is.
they've got to convince you that
Mhm.
they're actually doing something. Because if everything was just absolutely still, people would be going, "Wait a minute." So they have to have something to draw your eye away from the obvious fact that the astronauts aren't straining, their little bookshelves aren't moving, but you see that pen gyrating all over the place. And they got to be going like a bat out of hell. It's all sleight of hand, misdirection.
You could be like Bill Nye and say that it'd be much harder to fake it than to actually go. 'Cause that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Have you heard Neil deGrasse's argument that they must have gone to the moon because
of the fuel?
They had exactly enough fuel to go to the moon and back?
They didn't go to the Tiddlywinks, he said.
Right. Well, maybe they went to the strip club like 500,000 times.
Right. Didn't Charles make that excuse too when he was saying something like, "Well, there comes a point when it's just easier to do it than to fake it." It's like, yeah, Charles,
Unless you can't
they
do it.
can't go.
Exactly. Why nobody can see this, I don't know. It's just
I know.
baffling to me that, again, if people, I've said this 1,000 times, but if we just would get together as a human race and say, hey, these 10% of people have a big question about space travel, and as a human race, we all put our attention into forcing NASA to prove their claims rather than have the 90% of people turn around and call us crazy, which does nothing good for anybody, because if they're right, then by us continuing to search, we're going to find out the truth. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to all realize, oh, okay, we were wrong, that they taught us the truth. We shouldn't have gone down. We shouldn't have questioned these great scientists. And if we're right, well, then we helped save not only ourselves, but those 90%. But instead, the 90% turn, the Sean Huffords, the Red Rhetoric, they want to go on and on about how crazy we are, which if they're right, great, fantastic. Look what you guys did. But if you're wrong, just notice what you're going to do to the human race because you refuse to look into it. Well, you don't know anybody at NASA. Yeah. What do you care? Look into it. That's all we're saying,
Exactly.
And they won't even look into it.
And today they had the perfect opportunity to prove it to us. They had a 4K camera allegedly on the space station. Why didn't they simply take that 4K camera, go back behind them, enter into the cupola, live with everything in 4K resolution, and then point that sucker right out the window in broad daylight, real time, to prove that they were over Baja California. Obviously, we're going to see that their live tracking and the live feed would be have a huge disconnect. But they had the opportunity. All they had to do was point that damn camera out the window. But will they ever do it? Not a chance. Never.
Nope.
Well, we'd much rather see that astronaut's pores and pimples, like he said. So
that was so bad.
And water tricks.
And they'll just say that their excuse is always, well, what NASA does doesn't have to conform to your wishes. That's their excuse. That's they feel comfortable saying, it's just crazy that they are okay with just granting them every possible mishap, every possible bit of nonsense, every possible, thing that's impossible by the laws of physics. They just allow it. They just don't care. It's because it's NASA and they love space. And hey, I grew up the same way. I grew up just like everybody else and learning all that stuff. And then when you look into it, as long as you don't have a real deep vested interest in maintaining the lie, I mean, I don't know how you don't see it. It's crazy to me.
Well, it's so ass backwards because since NASA is a government military agency, then they should be 100% beholden to our wishes and desires.
It's our money.
And questions and inquiry. And, frankly, if they're going to spend tax dollars on doing whatever it is they do, then we should be able to mandate, what we expect from them. And we should also be able to capitalize collectively on any technologies they happen to develop, on the ground with actual scientists doing, inventions and experiments on the ground in reality. But instead, we just get all this fakery. And, the claim that you mentioned where it would be easier to actually go than to fake it is just so preposterous. I mean, to actually think that it would be easier to go to the moon, which they claim they did, which is like 250,000 miles each way, that would actually be easier than making the cheap B-ass films that they did and tricking people. Like, who could possibly make that argument with a straight face? I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah, none whatsoever. And they obviously don't even want to look into it, or else maybe they're scared of what they'll find when they do. It's the whole idea of the conspiracy stair step,
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, well, today, all I can say about today was it is an expected huge disappointment. But you're right, Jaron. I think it's even worse than we thought it was going to be.
Oh, there's no way I thought it was going to be that bad. There's no way.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it was absolutely the worst thing I've seen. And yet, to prove that people are fanboys rather than admit, yeah, that was a real big nonsense thing. Why would they ever promote that? Why would they show that? These guys will back them up. They'll go and back them up and say it was a great thing. It was a great thing. They showed 4K footage when we know that the window is right there. It was 20 feet from them. And it was daytime. They couldn't walk over and show the Earth. I mean, the fact that people can't just turn and say, you know what, you're right, let's get some proof. Like, let's ask why we don't have a 24-hour video feed of the Earth from space. And yet they don't care. They say, oh, no, they don't need to do that. They've got better things to spend money on than pleasing you. It's like, really?
Well,
okay.
Yeah, and they, of course, we get told that, well, no, we do have those because you can go to those, that one satellite page. We've seen it before where you can go and you see these ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous feeds where one satellite doesn't even agree with another one at all. They're completely non sequitur. And
the
of course, they don't really want to highlight those because, who would? I mean, those are absolutely the very worst examples that they've seen, or even the Himawari, right?
Yeah, I think you can get live
it's
pictures
just,
of that.
Yeah, but there is no legitimate 24-hour feed or anything like that. When with all the satellites out there, it is astounding, absolutely astounding. And a lot of those satellites are supposedly out at 23 to 26,000 miles, right? Out into space, right out there where the, DirecTV satellites, that would be one thing that absolutely blows me away. If I was DirecTV or Dish Network and I had my own satellite out there at 26,000 miles away, the first thing I would put on it is a camera and have it the live Earth channel. I guarantee you it would probably have the highest ratings ever. They could sell advertising space on it. I mean, come on, this is a business opportunity, guys. People want to see this stuff. Me personally, I would have it on 24 hours a day, probably. Just fascinated with it.
How did this one just skip like that? Oopsie. Sorry.
Yeah, we just get nonsense. Go ahead.
No, I was trying to bring this up, but I can't really get the whole thing in the screen here. It's just such nonsense. I mean, the fact that, look at that. It skips for some reason. I want to watch the time here this time because it's going and it's showing 15. I just want to see if it goes the whole, or is it skipping hours? Oh, just skipped. It's like the South Pole camera. They don't have enough bandwidth to send the whole day. So, I mean, this doesn't even look like a sphere. It just doesn't. Let me see if I can find a better one than that. Let's see this one. Hello.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And of course, we constantly get asked, well, show us one picture of the flat Earth from space, and to that I would say, well, look at what NASA is giving us from a couple 100,000 feet up. Take the fisheye component out of it, and there's your flat Earth.
What is this shadow here? Is this supposed to be night? Look at this shadow.
Yeah, it's like a wipe going across there, like the Terminator lines going across. I think that's what that's supposed to be, is the Terminator going across.
What a joke.
Yeah, and look at the cloud movement. Seriously, there's a little bit of cloud movement there, but nothing like you would expect. I mean, I don't know how much of a time span that would be, but I would say it would have to be at least several hours, and the clouds are going to move a lot more than that.
And first of
Once
all,
again,
doesn't
that's
this?
pathetic.
Where is this at? Oh, that's New Zealand there that we're looking at. Here, down here. Sorry, I should tell you what I'm looking at. I mean, this to me, I just don't know how anybody thinks that this is a ball that they live on, spinning in space. To me, it's so laughable at this point that it's embarrassing that I ever believed it, and it's embarrassing that I feel. I mean, I beat myself up over the fact that I cannot get people to see it. I mean, that I don't know what else you can do besides keep showing this shit over and over again, and showing the kind of stuff that happened today, and showing these nonsense astronauts. I mean, think of that girl we saw today. That they say that they only hire 1 out of 4,000 applicants. Well, who were the other 3,999 applicants that she got picked? Monkeys? I mean, how she's not intelligent enough to be in a top of a 4,000 class. They're picking people that are willing to take money to lie to your face. It
was funny because she said it was a dream of hers to be an astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of fitting.
Yeah. Well, it's casting. That's all it is. It's casting. Who's going to have, the specific type of appeal that they want, either coming across, with just enough beauty, just enough physical appeal, just enough nerdiness, whatever, also appeal to their demographic. All of that is taken very carefully into consideration. They're not stupid. They've been casting in Hollywood for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's
well,
so funny.
I think that they're also able to profile people, and I suppose they would probably pick them out of the ranks of different secret societies, but especially profile people who have no problem with telling absolute lies in order for personal gain and in order to have sort of duper's delight and control over people. I'm sure that they must screen for that in astronauts.
They must. It's just disgusting too, because they don't speak well. They don't, and you know who they interview every day, or who interviews them every day, is children. Children at schools ask them questions, and I've seen it tons of times where they go up and they read from a piece of paper, and it's the same questions every time, and they can't even answer those. It's all about, where do you pee? We actually drink our pee here. We actually it's the same thing over and over and over again. And it's all about them being afraid of admitting that we can't leave here. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is that they don't want people to know that, because they want people to study the STEM sciences so that they can get the hell out of here. That's their goal.
Right. Well, it's pretty difficult to go outside of the controlled narrative. You can't really allow too many questions that when the answer comes, that answer can be cross-referenced against something else that another astronaut has said that is blatantly in stark contrast. A good example of that is, like when Neil Armstrong was asked what the background of space looked like. And, his answer was, well, it's just a deep, dark black. And then you got Chris Hadfield, which, initially when he's up there, he's saying that it's so brilliant and bright that it's almost like a complete white background, as well as many other astronauts. And that is an absolute fiasco. Those are the situations that they have to be very, very careful of when they're scripting this narrative of that, in the future, it doesn't come back and is used against them, because especially at this point, people are hanging on every single word that is being said. And they have to be very, very careful in what they put in their scripts.
Well, what's amazing to me is that they don't have any continuity in that regard. You'd think that that would sort of be like, liar not training 101 is like, okay, guys, we've all got to get our story straight on the stars. Are they visible from space or not? And yeah, going back from Neil Armstrong all the way up to astronauts today, you get all these conflicting answers. Some of them saying that the night sky from space is filled with so many stars it's like whiter than white, and some of them saying you can't see one single star. And so it can't be both, right? It's got to be one or the other. And so now they're in a position where they're pretty much damned if they do and damned if they don't. But they really need to pick one and stick with it at some point.
Yeah. Well, and those are things that moving forward, they're going to try and correct that. And, like anything else, practice makes perfect. And, in the earlier days, NASA's been doing this. And that's why you can find so many gems in the old footage, where it's blatant, kind of like the mission where the guy's floating out into space and his entire helmet turns because it's clearly like, animation, claymation, kind of animation type stuff. And especially, that NASA is watching shows like this one in order to see exactly what, the common folk are pointing out when they're looking for this stuff. And a lot of the flat earthers, so that they can go back and say, okay, guys, we really, this got a little hairy. We need to correct this and look out for this next time. And again, make it better and better and better. And that's why we need to keep hammering on this stuff.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to reveal it. I did talk to a group the other day who they meet privately and talk privately. And I went there to basically tell them that I didn't agree with that, so much. I do understand where they're coming from, that with all of the, trolls that are out there and the way things are taken and the way that, you say something wrong and it's immediately held against you, even though we're all making guesses, right? I mean, that's the problem, is that we were lied to. But I told them that I'm not into that group. I'm into releasing every single thing I find the second I release it. And if they have to go clean it up, that's just evidence to me. The fact that you can go to that Sky Planetarium now and see that they changed the dates from before, being able to go 10,000 years total, 5,000 years in the future, 5,000 years back. And because I made the video talking about Polaris not moving, and that you could see in this software that you can go 5,000 years ahead or 5,000 years back and the North Star stays in the exact spot, and 2 weeks later, he's changed the whole program to where now you can only go to 1500 AD to 2500 AD. And I even wrote him an email and he just said, I got a lot of complaints that it wasn't accurate. And I said, well, what are you using? What data are you using? NASA's data? Because then it has to be accurate. What do you mean? How can it not be accurate? What you're saying is that you have programmed a planetarium software with data that you certainly didn't make up. You didn't get that data yourself. You had to go and get that data from somebody. And that data is requiring that Polaris stay where it is for all time. That's the long and the short of it. That there's no way that the data has Polaris moving or your data would be correct. And I kept emailing him and he eventually stopped emailing me back because they realize what's going on. They either sell out or something. I don't know what it is, but they're not able to use their brain to think anymore. They just have given it all away to whatever mainstream science says I believe, whatever they tell me to do, I do, whatever they say is the truth must be, and that's how they operate their lives. And I refuse to do that, because especially when you can prove that those people are lying, just one time, and then all of a sudden, then you should scrutinize everything they give you, every bit of it, and it's their own damn fault. When you tell me I've got to believe the moon landing is real, when it's so clearly not, then I'm going to question everything you put out until you prove me wrong by going back and showing me, hey, here's the lander, here's the rover, here's everything the way we left it, and it's 2017, so the video footage is what you would expect. They can't even do that.
Oh, God, here's a great comment. This guy says, Jaron, Polaris moves little, but it moves, and you can see it with the $300 telescope. What an idiot.
Okay, so did you hear what I just said? But what I just said is that the data that people are using to build software that is supposed to show this, that because they had 10,000 years in the future and Polaris didn't move, then that means it doesn't move at all. Not a little bit at a time, or else it would move a little bit at a time, meaning if you went ahead 2,000 years, it needs to move a little bit in 2,000 years. But he had to go back and change his software.
But Jaron, all you need is a $300 telescope, and you can prove all these software companies wrong. Jaron, come on.
I already did prove them wrong. Then why do you think they changed their program?
Polaris does move. It makes the tiniest little circuit, over a course of 24 hours. But if you focus a telescope in that general area that it's going to make its little ring within, it doesn't move. And that's the case, allegedly for thousands of years. And just based on the precession of the equinoxes, which is allegedly caused by axial precession or the wobble of the Earth's axis over 26,000 years, then we should see major changes in the North Star relatively frequently, like really frequently, and we don't.
At all.
Yeah, at all. That's exactly right. And even my, $7,000 telescope doesn't show that. It just doesn't. Yes, you're right, John. There is a slight wobble, if you will, to Polaris. But again, and even that shouldn't be possible because, we're darting through space overall at, a couple million miles an hour or something close to that. It just makes no sense that there would be this cyclical thing, if we're heading in a generally linear direction. We shouldn't be seeing these star patterns. And that is the most obvious common sense that we can really point out to people. And the whole idea of the stars being so distant that we will never see that parallax even in our lifetimes is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know Sean Hufford will be a nice guy and not give us a copyright strike, or not give me one, because I'm just showing his video of the Himawari, which is, I thought he had it in here somewhere.
Well, we're doing it under fair use commentary anyway. He wouldn't get far with it.
No, but I thought that he had I thought he had it, where he actually shows the, and I'm not sure if he stitched them together or somebody else stitched them together, but I've got a question about that too, if I can see it.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in the chat since we asked him to explain why we don't see anything.
Well, you know why? Is because he probably went to look. He got that. Oh, I'll go find it right now. And then he's looking and looking and looking, and realizing that they don't have it. That there's no.
Maybe that'll wake him up. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah, this is fair use, Bob. I agree. Okay, so he says it's fair use.
Okay, thank you.
It's in the chat.
Where do you have the video of the Himawari? Am I missing it somewhere? Sean, I don't know if I'm just not reading it right. And I always tell people, I'm always for people going and watching all these guys' channels. There's nothing that is being hidden. There's nothing that, watch Red's Rhetoric all you want. Watch Sean Hufford. Watch these guys, because if they show you something that proves to you that the Earth is a ball, then I would appreciate it if you came and told me as quick as possible. But I don't see it. Oh, load more. Jeez, it's going to be there. Come on.
Second and third page, Jaron. I haven't made one for a while, he says.
Okay, so these ones, I guess, we'll go to this one and see. And so, okay, cool. So my question on these ones is, if we were to watch this, oops, I don't know why it's so zoomed in over here. Okay, well, if we're going to watch the glare, okay, so the glare of the sun, which we see right here, here it comes. Okay, so now it's right here. Okay, we'll keep watching this glare. Okay, now it's going here. Okay, now it disappears here, right? So then how does it reappear here? What if you're on the other side? So you're telling me that if you're on the other side of the planet, then when this glare is here, the other person also sees a glare over there on their side? Is that what it would be? That it's just so clearly not a ball. I mean, it's not. This is done with high altitude planes that take photos of the clouds that are sent down and they're mapped on a ball. That's it. It's so simple, and yet people act like they'll let them discover satellites 13 billion miles into the universe. No problem. That's easily doable. But when you say this is done with high altitude planes, they lose their minds. Like, oh, are you kidding me? How would they ever do that? What do you mean they fake things with balloons? How would they ever do that? Well, because it's so simple. You have a model of a ball. You take the cloud footage, you send it down to the station, and it's mapped on a ball. And I think, Bob, I sent you one time an email response from somebody at a satellite place where I asked them, does the data go straight from the satellite to you? I think it was the University of Wisconsin. is that how it works? And they say, oh no, it goes to the NOAA first. Then they have to do this and this. They have to encode it. They have to, and then we get the data. But it's like, okay, well then how is nobody noticing this is a problem? That nobody's seeing the data until it goes through these stations where, of course, it's encoded and it's mapped onto a ball. Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. We've got arrays of Doppler towers everywhere that we can pretty much cover and understand what's going on in terms of the clouds and the cloud movements and stuff over the majority of the world. And of course, they can fill in gaps with, over great areas of seas with hypothetical clouds. But yeah, I don't even think they necessarily need. I mean, sure, they could possibly be using flyover information, but it makes a lot of sense that they would take the Doppler information and also map that out as CGI over a spherical matrix Earth.
Yeah, it's just baffling to me. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work. It's just so easily faked. That's what I think is the biggest problem, is that people act like it would be the hardest thing in the world to fake. I've heard people say, well, why don't you tell me when the solstices are supposed to happen, or when the when the equinox is supposed to happen on a flat Earth, simulation. Oh wait, you can't, because all you guys use is globe stuff. And it's like, dude, do they not understand that it could have been that the Earth was flat and people knew that, and that they had all this stuff mapped, just like what's that device, Bob, the
Astrolabe.
Yeah, that. But the one device that they found, the
the Antikythera.
Antikythera, yeah. That that's based. So they knew, just like in the history, when these eclipses would happen. So they had all the data, and they could have easily built a ball around the data, and that's what we have now. So for people just to say like, where's your? Well, yeah, we're 1,000 guys on YouTube. If you think that we can map the Earth in 2 years, you got to be kidding yourself. I mean, how long do you think it took to map the Earth on a globe? It took them hundreds of years and thousands of people all sailing around. We don't have high altitude planes that we can get up and do this stuff. We're fed bullshit.
Yeah, what's the red stuff at the bottom of the ball and at the top?
Red stuff. Let me see.
Yeah, you see it. As it passes by, it's like you down there. I assume that's supposed to be a continent, but why is it so red?
I don't know. That's I don't know what that is, but
or maybe it's just looking that way on the live feed. No, it's showing that way on your feed too. See how red it is?
Yeah.
Why is that? That's odd.
I guess because Australia is red. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
But I mean, look at the stability of this camera too. In orbit, just perfectly still. Because remember, it's spinning with the Earth right now. Everything's spinning. Here's the even funnier thing, and I think people forget this. I'm going to pause it here and let's just think about something. Okay, let's pause it right here. Oh, what was that? This is the eclipse? Okay, this is the eclipse. This is the moon going across. But we don't see the moon because it must be somewhere else and getting blocked. Remember this. This right here is water. This is water. I mean, that alone should make you just think for a second that this is water. We know what happens with water. And we just believe these pictures that water just curves like this over here, sideways, but there's no up or down in space. But this water it's sucked to the middle of the ball, and we know that because why? Where's the evidence of that? Oh, because the Earth. Well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Can you show me in a lab? Can you show me somewhere? Can you show me some model? Where can I prove that mass pulls to the center? Because I'll go get the biggest rock that there is, and nothing will pull to anything on it. It will fall to the ground, and everything put on top of the rock will fall to the ground.
Yeah, Cavendish, man. Yeah, and that's another thing. I still want to see, people keep talking about this. People, the trolls will come forward and say, whoa, we did that experiment in college 1,000,000 times. It's been done 1,000 times. Charles himself says that the Cavendish experiment has been done thousands of times. And I don't know if it was you or somebody else that asked him, well, when exactly, where can we see this? And he goes, well, it was videoed. It's been done lots of times, in the past, but they didn't have video cameras back then, I believe was his excuse, right? Is that you? It's like, well, does the laws of physics change here in the 21st century that we can't actually put a video camera on it and some realistic instrumentation that we're seeing this actually happen? Why do they keep claiming that that it happens, and they've done it a million times, and I still haven't ever found. Have you guys ever found any footage of this happening, or any explanation,
No,
or
but
anything?
I will point out that
Me neither.
Sean is smarter than I thought, because he put ads on his videos. So I actually think that that's a smart thing to do, because everyone out there says, I can't believe you put ads on your videos. I'm like, if you make videos and somebody's offering to pay you to put them up and you don't take that money, then you're the fool. So I don't know why that's a claim by anybody to say, well, I don't put ads on my videos. Congratulations for doing something for free that somebody wants to pay you for. It's really a good thing. Hang your hat on that.
So I'm looking.
Going back to that, that animation there, I'm just wondering, where is the sun? I mean, because we should at least once in a while be catching a glimpse of the sun, because
No, it's behind.
right now the
Oh, I see
sun
what you're
is
saying.
directly behind the camera. But then once it gets over to the other side, that you should see at least some of the time the sun appear to go across the, behind the earth, where it's lighting the earth from.
Beautiful. What about the moon? Where's the moon? We know they show us that 1 or 2, but are you telling me that the moon is above or below the Earth's view from here? From a million miles out, something that's only 700, that's how high. I thought it's a 5% orbit, a 5% incline. So
I suppose the moon could be on the opposite side of the Earth, so it would be like a no moon phase, which would last, it would be on the opposite side of the Earth for days and days and days. But yeah, eventually you'd think that you'd start to see a crescent moon peek out from one of the sides. But yeah, you don't see the moon at all.
It's just so easily
Sean,
picked.
I am looking on the SciStrike channel. I see the video, April 21st, SciStrike Force Movie Night Live, where you say that you did the Cavendish experiment. Can you give me a time index? It is a 4-hour and 17-minute video. I'm scanning across it on a cursory scan. I see nothing that shows any lead balls or anything like that. So, so Sean Huffer's saying that they did it on this video. But I'm not seeing. Not seeing this, Sean. So give me a time index on this video, Sean.
They
we'll
meaning
play
him?
it live.
Yeah, and it's so ridiculous, because everybody knows that you cannot demonstrate mass or even high density large chunks of matter being attractive to other large high density chunks of matter under any circumstances, unless maybe there's magnetism involved. But just sheer density and mass, there is no attractant force, and frankly that should be scalable. But Cavendish allegedly used, I think it was like 300-pound lead balls or something like that, which that's not very impressive actually. And any measurements that he may have taken, which I don't necessarily trust Cavendish at all, but even if the measurements that he took were accurate, there's a million different explanations for what could have caused that other than gravity, because again, anyone can demonstrate that no matter how large or massive an object is, it has no attractant force whatsoever. It's just that things just don't behave that way. Even if you're Sir Cavendish with your glorified tool shed.
Okay, Jaron, here we go. I'm pasting this in the chat.
Okay.
I haven't watched this, so let's do a. Oh, come on, move my little notification out of the way here.
Did you put it in the chat already?
No, I'm just about to.
Oh.
Okay. Time index, 2 minutes 35 seconds is where it starts. And these look like little bitty balls to me. And so what they're showing here is it looks like they've got like a tape measure or something that's on a string. And
am I looking at the right video?
I think.
Okay, I see it. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's it. That's our Huckleberry. So
how could the
again,
string...
I don't see the balls attracting each other. Maybe this little tape measure thing is.
Which we already know that. Hold on, I'm trying to see what's going on here. Are they? That's not the way that the experiment's supposed to go.
Well, let's just see what happens. I mean, if they're actually going to make the claim that because this thing twists and goes to them, that is no proof of jack.
No,
I mean that's ridiculous. In fact.
Yeah, the star field, and that's an admitted
it's copper
thing.
Wire, he says.
Yeah, but the star field would cause that, or the Earth spinning, either one. I don't understand how that's a proof of gravity.
Yeah, or Coriolis effect, or
That's what I mean.
Birkeland currents. I mean, come on. What is? Yeah, it's inching closer. It's also kind of vibrating back and forth. Yes, it's inching closer. This is supposed to prove gravity, Sean. Are you serious?
Here's another thing too. This obviously isn't being done in a vacuum, and so you've got atmosphere that's in there, and the bowling ball or whatever that is going to be displacing some atmosphere, and that could cause enough perturbances to allow for some sort of attractant. But the simple fact that whatever that tape measure thing is dangling, it's going to sway sometimes, and to say that's because of the attraction of those balls is it's ridiculous,
Oh
man.
my
Do
God!
they show it from the start or no?
Well, no, it just kind of cuts into that. I mean,
So
that
I mean,
time index.
if I took my
It's like,
finger
you
and
gotta be
flicked it,
kidding me.
The whole claim of the Cavendish experiment was that he used really, really massive, dense balls in order, to get it to work. But I don't give a damn if you use. I mean, I've been on plenty of construction sites where we've dealt with multi-ton stones, and I'm telling you, there is no attractant force between very large, dense objects and other, high-density large objects. There just isn't.
Yeah, and how do you know that this wasn't some sort of electrostatic charge, which, if anything, it certainly was? I mean, come on,
and these
this
are just
doesn't
bowling
prove
balls.
gravity.
Are these just bowling balls?
They look like it. They look like they're bowling balls, and that looks like some sort of a tape measure type thing with some, I don't know what's taped on the end, but yeah, on a copper wire, I think he says.
Oh, and
this
he forgot to use one of Cavendish's most important controls. See, Cavendish actually ran telescopes into his tool shed so that the gravity of Cavendish himself wouldn't interfere with the experiment.
That's what they say. I want to know how is the copper wire attached to whatever it's attached to, because whatever it's attached to at the roof or the ceiling is going to make a difference on the tension of that wire. How is it attached? Is it hooked over something? Because it's going to tend to roll that direction. That's ridiculous.
Honestly, Sean, dude, you have got to be kidding me. You believe that this is proving gravity, with these bowling balls, and why is it that these bowling balls somehow are now superseding the Earth's attractional force? Because you've got it on this rotational platform.
Show me how it's attached.
If you believe this, then you are seriously a hardcore, uncurable fanboy.
That is like
it's
hooked.
ridiculous.
It looks like it's on a hook. So just think of if you hooked a copper wire on a hook, how would it ever maintain its I don't know, what do you want to call it? Its tautness. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and hanging from the ceiling.
According to the theories and the laws of gravity, they have to do with mass, density, and proximity. So honestly, you'd have a better chance of proving gravity by setting those two bowling balls pretty close to one another and waiting around to see when they start rolling towards each other, because there would be theoretically a greater gravitational force between the two bowling balls and one of the bowling balls and whatever those little weighty objects are. Because again, gravity would be increased with the mass and proximity of each object. So
right now it's closer, so shouldn't it get there? But it never gets there.
Yeah, it should accelerate towards it. I mean,
gravity is an acceleration, 9.8 meters per second squared. So this should
that would be one Earth unit of gravity. But
yeah, one Earth unit. But nevertheless, it is an exponential component, right? So that means that the attractive capabilities, these things should actually be accelerating towards the bowling balls.
Right.
And, oh my God. It could be wind currents in the room that's doing it. This is, oh my God. I can't even believe you cite this, Sean. I would be embarrassed.
And how is this attached to the center of it anyway? It just comes down to, when you're looking for the answer that you're looking for like this, then you'll just accept anything. And I guess I'm just different. I'm just not going to settle for people who have been proven liars to just tell us stories that happened way in the past, and we just all have to suck it up and believe it when it doesn't even make sense. What they're trying to say doesn't make sense. Cavendish story doesn't make sense. Copernicus putting out his book at the end of his life on his deathbed the day he dies doesn't make sense. You know, somebody else wrote that. You don't release books on your deathbed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh my God, this is pathetic.
Wow.
I'm dumbfounded. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed at our youth and what they are actually buying into, and they're actually convinced that this is showing some sort of gravitational acceleration, laterally. That of course not only is it showing a lateral gravitational acceleration, but it's superseding the downward draw of the great gravitational pull of the Earth. I mean, you have got to be kidding me. I'm embarrassed. I really am. And you should be too, Sean, for even bringing this up. This is pathetic.
I was looking at this one the other day again, and I know we've seen this a bunch of times, but I mean, look how the United States goes up this way. It just makes me laugh. I just can't. And I love this. This is a full moon. Should be as bright as the full moon is, but because it's the dark side, I guess it looks like this disc. Nothing ever looks like a ball, ever. I mean, this is not a ball. It doesn't even look like one.
Yeah, it's so bad. Well, and of course, like we said, when you look at it crossing the Earth, there is no cloud morphing whatsoever. That's the biggest thing that struck me. Even on the one that you were showing earlier, at least they showed cloud motion, right? But this one, not a chance. Not one iota of cloud motion anywhere. Not buying it.
Yeah, I think I'd seen a little bit of cloud motion down there, but it's still not at all what you would expect. And we did do that thing with the geometry and this, even though it looks completely fake, the geometry is right, which you would expect them to get. I mean, again...
You're seeing some cloud motion, Jaron?
Yeah, I mean, if we were to... Let me look at it again.
Because I've watched this 100 times, and I mean, with my face right up against the screen, and I'm not seeing it.
I was watching this little white speck of cloud here, and I'm going to see if it comes out on the other side and what's going on. Yeah, I mean, I think I see it. I mean, if you're looking at, let me see if I can show you what I'm looking at. So
send me over your glasses.
There's a little white speck of cloud right here that I can see that's kind of out in the middle of that circle. And then if you kind of follow that spot, when it gets out of there, that it looks like it's changed because it's not in that circle anymore. See, now it looks like that circle has changed. But it could just be angles. I mean, I don't know. It just certainly doesn't look at all correct to me. I mean, so look at this.
So it's according to how much time is supposed to have transpired. I mean, is this a geostationary satellite, or is it actually
This is the epic
motion? Huh?
This is the epic one, so it's 1 million miles out in direct line with the sun and the Earth, supposedly.
Okay, so the apparent motion that we're seeing is parallax motion due to the velocity of the far distant craft, allegedly. So it may not be all that much time that's transpiring. It might just be a couple of hours.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
well, the Earth spins
I'm looking out the window right now, and I've seen, I can see distinct cloud changes in the matter of seconds.
Yeah,
right?
you'd expect to see something, but it's like if you compare it to some of the older ones where it's like 23 hours and like the clouds don't hardly move at all, that's very, very like impactful. Whereas, and again, I don't know the duration of this, but if it's like an hour or two, then you wouldn't expect to see too much cloud, movement just because of the distances involved. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I'd be interested to know what the duration is of the.
Well, it looks like if you watch like the United States, how much it's moving, it started here, so you're probably talking 5 hours, 6 hours.
Right, but see, that's what I'm saying is if it's the actual motion of the satellite that's causing the apparent spin, as opposed to the Earth spinning itself.
It is the Earth spinning.
But it seems like it's geostationary because the Earth remains completely lit.
No, it's in between the Earth and the sun. It always stays at that Lagrange point 1 million miles away. So what you see is the actual Earth spinning and the moon in orbit. Because the satellite...
Okay, so it's not a parallax sort of motion from the motion of the satellite. Okay. Well then yeah, you can tell from where the that one landmass starts into how far it goes. That's several hours, 5, 6, 7 hours or so.
Yeah, I'm just trying to even see.
Sean has a question for you, Jaron.
Shoot.
He says, I'm still waiting for Jaron to answer. How many planes would it take to get pictures of the entire half of the Earth to show accurate cloud cover for half the Earth every 10 minutes? How many planes? I don't know. I don't think they're using planes.
I
I
think
think
they're
they're
using
using high
balloons.
altitude balloons, first of all.
No, and not only that, they're using Doppler radar. They wouldn't need planes. Doppler radar's been around forever, and they've got arrays of them so they can cover seamlessly and then digitally map very convincing-looking clouds over a CGI sphere.
Yeah, I mean, NASA's admitted to launching 50 balloons a day. So you're talking 50 balloons a day, and you can put balloons probably, 200,000 feet if you're NASA, I'm guessing, maybe 150. I wouldn't think it would take more than, less than that at least. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's absolutely doable in conjunction with Doppler data, and all that stuff is online, and they've got some buffer time to sort of put their stuff together, and they have a process and a team of professionals that know what they're doing. It would not be difficult at all for them to update that every 5 or 10 minutes.
This just in, Jaron, I just posted a link.
Mm-hmm.
ISS water spheres, flat Earth fudge packers.
What is this now?
Okay. I don't know. I'm looking at this. Somebody just posted this, and it's the water bubble experiment that's being done somewhere. I'm not sure where this is being done.
Oh, somebody's on Earth doing this?
I think so. Maybe we might have to listen. Okay.
I'll turn on the volume here. Oops. That's real good. Get off the screen.
Yeah, and David's going to be coming in here in a second. I gave him the link.
I'm here.
Oh, there you
David.
go.
Hey,
Okay.
can you just go back to the spinning, the rotating the Earth that's getting light and dark that you were looking at, the first one, the one without the moon?
You're talking about the one that was Sean's?
I don't know whose it was. It was you guys were looking at it for a long time, and it's going from night to day and day to night. And you were looking at that reflection that doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
That shows up on one side and then immediately shows up on the other. First, the angles of the light and dark are exiting at different angles, so that doesn't make any sense. But that satellite is 1 million miles away. So what is the speed that satellite's going that's making a 2 million mile radius circle? Because it's going around, it's staying over the same point of the land, so it's orbiting. So the moon should be whizzing by every 24 hours.
Yeah, you'd certainly think so. Which one you mean?
And then
One of these?
Say again?
I said which one? One of these you're talking about? I don't know which one we were already watching, but
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever one you guys were looking
Okay.
at like 10, 15 minutes ago. You were talking about it for a while.
okay.
But the one that you were looking at where it showed you saw the reflection, the glare on the left, and immediately shows up on the right.
This one's one of
which
them.
makes absolutely no sense. The angle that the Terminator line comes in changes from set to rise, and it made no sense. But that's not it. The big point I was trying to make is that satellite is making a circle. It's going around, staying geostationary at someone's got to, maybe Flat Earth Math can calculate that speed for us because it must be incredible. But then it can't be the same satellite that took the picture of the moon transit, because that one is staying perfectly still.
This one is
while
not
the
a
Earth rotates.
yeah. This one's not 1 million miles out.
Okay, no, this one, Sean says it's 22,242 miles from the surface.
And is geostationary.
And why is the Earth the same size as the one that's 1 million miles out?
Zoom.
Okay.
Don't make me explain
just
stuff I don't
makes-
believe, please.
It makes absolutely no sense. But by the way, that Cavendish experiment, that makes perfect sense to me.
Whoa. Yeah, that's pretty pathetic. So yeah, so 22,000 miles out into space, that's amazing. Okay, so it is in a... So this isn't the Himwari then, is what you were showing? I mean,
No, this is the
why
Himwari.
Sean's...
No, before I went to there's the Discover Epic one, that's 1 million miles away. And then that's the one that's always facing the bright side of Earth because it's in between the Earth and the sun. And then this one is the one that just shows the east coast for some reason, or the east, but it sits here in geosynchronous orbit at like 25,000 miles or something, or whatever. 22, you said.
Yeah, geostationary orbit, it's always a given distance that's conducive to that. It's always about 22,000 miles, and it's 1.9 going at 1.91 miles per second. So that's 1.91 times 60 times 60.
It'd be going slower than the ISS.
Yes, it's only going about 6,800 miles per hour allegedly. And
which is crazy to think that things going that are further out, it goes slower. I've always thought that was weird.
It's crazy. I was studying one alleged satellite. I forget the name of it, but it goes out to some million miles. It's the most distant satellite. They claim that it's studying solar winds, but then it's also the nearest, or one of the nearest satellites on its on the other end of its journey when it's coming around the other side of the Earth, as something like, I want to say 250,000 miles, or maybe it was 250 miles or something like that. But anyway, it's these satellites are just crazy. But yeah, geostationary is usually about 22,000 miles up and only going a little less than 7,000 miles an hour, which is, it is really weird. But that's how they claim they keep them right above the same spot.
Yeah, can you imagine what kind of centrifugal force there must be on that satellite that, of course, is being compensated by the extremely weak force of gravity? That's the thing that never really made any sense to me. That obviously being 23,000 miles out into space, it has to compensate, by going that 7,000 miles an hour. But, that is also at an angular velocity, which means that there would be, at least I would think, quite a bit of centrifugal force on that is being overcome on this little bitty object out there by the Earth's gravitational field.
Okay, so tell me if I'm wrong on this, because I'm just doing this in my head. But if the bottom of the Earth should be pointed at the sun for the southern summer, then if we're talking about in October, this is October 6th, so if I look at where the okay, so that's where Australia is on October 6th. So if I went ahead to November, then where should this be? Should it be higher or lower? What do you think?
Wait now. So repeat the question. I'm sorry, because I'm just looking at the graphic.
Okay, so we're in October. So if we move forward to November, then if we find the spot where Australia is at the same location, should it be higher or should it be lower? Wouldn't it have to be higher? Because the sun should be getting more of the bottom. So you'd have to lift this up. That's the tilt.
Okay, I was thinking that it should be lower because the sun would be more towards the bottom.
Right, yeah. So like as you're traveling into northern summer, then Australia should drop.
No. If you're going from October to November, then you're heading towards the peak of the southern summer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then Australia should raise.
I think so too. But if you go here, watch where Australia is. See that?
Huh.
Looks like it. I saw it as, if anything, it actually. Let's go to here. Looks like it drops. Maybe even looks like it's identical. Wow, that's crazy. Now I'm seeing it's identical. Oops, let me go back here. That might even be the same exact place. I think it's the same exact place.
It's funny because you'll catch NASA using the same exact images, 10 years apart. And I know you've pointed out quite a few. I think Russian vids pointed out some, and probably dozens of other people, where NASA will put out images claiming that they're brand new, brand spanking new images of the sun or the planets or whatever, but then you'll find the exact same images in their archives from like 10 years ago or 7 months ago or whatever.
That thing doesn't move, I guarantee it's in the same exact spot. But maybe they're going to say that that's where it stays. It doesn't move in relation to the continents. I don't know. I just thought that you should see that actual change, but I guess you don't see it. But yeah, you're absolutely right, John. That's in the one that I found that's the best evidence of that is the, and I want to say it's Apollo 17, it might be 16, but on the way back they use the exact same image of the Earth that they used on the way there. That they're going there, they show the image of the Earth, and then they go do all their stuff on the moon, and when they're coming back, then they show the image of the Earth. It's identical. Take it, overlay it, nothing's changed. It's just inputted, and you know. And then Sean, if you're still listening, I found, and I'll show you the document if you want to see it, but it's a 1961 document talking about a movie that showed the first American in space called Shadows of Infinity, and it talked about all the countries that it was sent to and how it was well received, and I cannot find that video anywhere, and so maybe you have seen it, or you could tell us why it's disappeared and why there's no record of it anymore, just that one document saying that they sent it to all these countries and how well received it was, because those kind of things are evidence to me that they were faking stuff in that, which is clear, at least to me. And then, Bob, did you ever see that video I did? I think it was live. I can't even remember when it was, where I showed that hair on the satellite.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, no one's ever been able to explain that, how the hair got up there, or how it got removed. What did I just see?
Yeah.
What was that?
So Nathan is saying, Jaron, come on my show. He's starting now.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to be on the show at 1 o'clock. He what?
I'm sorry. And he gave you $2 to entice you in the super chat.
I forgot I was supposed to do a show at 1:11, which it is 1:11. Look at that.
Okay. Well, there you have it. And I got an answer back. Apparently, Charlie says for a sat, the centripetal force works exactly equals the gravity. That's the way orbits work. Well, that's interesting because obviously it works precisely the same for the closer sats. I don't get the centripetal though, but whatever. All right, great. Well, I'll look into that. Again, I've only started looking at orbital dynamics, and it's very confusing to say the very least.
So the satellite has no degradation at all. I mean, this is the thing that they'll accept. So what he's saying is that it stays in the exact location. It doesn't degrade at all, and if it does, then it certainly doesn't shoot any kind of thing to put it back up, or wouldn't we see that? Where is that kind of? Yeah, it's just crazy to me that what they'll accept. It's just, yeah, it's a great story. If you want to talk about the 1600s and Newton talking about cannonballs and you can shoot them over the Earth and that they go around and come back and hit you in the back of the head, then you could talk about that all day. Those are great thought experiments. They're not reality. Neither is living on that thing in the middle of black space with water.
Yeah.
That's not reality either.
Ridiculous. All right.
All right.
Well, anyway, I guess I need to actually take care of a couple of customers, and are you going to go and do Nathan's show, Darren?
Yep, I got to pop over there. I told him I would, and I didn't think we would go to 1 o'clock, but yeah, it was ridiculous what we saw today. So, I expected so much more. I thought that they were going to show the Earth. I mean, I really did. I thought that was the whole point. I did not know they were going to show those two jokers, who we've already seen make fools of themselves. And again, go look at, and I tell people all the time, look at all the space footage you can. Go watch all the NASA interviews with every astronaut, and you'll see very quickly that these are not intelligent people. I don't look at myself as being intelligent, and I would dare say I'm more intelligent than some of them. And that should not be the case at all. Every astronaut on the space station should be light years ahead of me, and yet these guys can barely put together a sentence. And these are the cream of the crop. These are your great scientists, your heroes, that are strapping themselves to rockets going 17,000 miles when SpaceX blows up 1 out of 6. But yet people just get on them, no problem. Nothing ever happens. It's ludicrous.
Well, frankly, I must say that I was utterly amazed with the groundbreaking technology and a glimpse into the future by NASA playing with, yet again, microphones, water bubbles, and they even played ping pong with water bubbles. And, I got to tell you guys, I'm not sure where humanity would be going if it wasn't for NASA up there playing water ball ping pong. So, frankly, I was just amazed, blown away, and it's worth every penny of the $20 billion a year. So.
Oh, great. Wait. I got one more thing. This is priceless. All right. So Charlie responds and he says, sat orbits do degrade, but this is largely due to friction with the Earth's atmosphere. This can also be calculated. My first response to that is really, we don't even know where this point is where the atmosphere magically disconnects with the Earth's orbit. And we're talking about satellites that are 23,000 miles out into space, which obviously would be even far less atmosphere than the ISS or any of the closer geosynchronous satellites. So yeah, I'd love to see how that's calculated, Charlie, because that would necessarily have to tell us precisely where the atmosphere limitations are and actually the density gradients of the atmosphere going all the way out from not only the Earth's surface, but all the way out to 26,000 miles out. There is no such information. That is BS.
So the Earth, when it spins and flies through space, it doesn't degrade because of its own atmosphere? It just moves right through that, no problem, but everything else gets held up by it? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Of course, yeah, of course it doesn't. That's exactly right. The Earth, it doesn't, it just has gravity, but the atmosphere isn't affected. It doesn't obviously slow the rotation of the Earth down. Oh, man. And to make wild claims like that, Charlie, you are ridiculous. I want to see this chart. Email it to me, bob@jeranism.com. Let's see this gradient chart that we can calculate this from. I'll be looking forward to receiving it. And if I do, I'll highlight it on Globebusters and we'll go over it. So there you go.
Yep, and you're right, John. I think every penny's worth it. And maybe one day we'll be able to have phone conversations from 250 miles where there's not an 11-second delay. I look forward to that day.
Yeah, if only, if only.
That's like somebody calling from San Francisco down to L.A. It's, Santa Barbara, San Francisco down to Santa Barbara, and having an 11-second delay. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's hard being NASA. Gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah, please send them more money. $52 million a day is not enough to have provided little to nothing to human race for 60 years. It's they definitely deserve some more.
They actually used blue dye in their water bubbles this time. I think that was actually a first. I've never seen that before. So we're definitely making scientific progress up there in space.
Alzheimer's will be gone within a year.
Yep.
So, okay.
Anyway, Bob, any final words?
Nope. We'll see everybody on Sunday. I'll be looking forward to Charlie's already weaseling out. Oh, no, you look it up. You look it up. No, Charlie, you send it to me. You made the claim. I've never seen anything like that. So we'll be looking forward to that, Charlie. Up to you, buddy.
Yeah, that's the thing, too. I'm also done, we never have tried to make any claims besides saying that we don't think things are legit. We think things are bullshit. We think what we've been told is a lie. And so it becomes on the people who are proclaiming things are true and the people stating that things are facts and that they're scientific, which requires repeatability and evidence, and there is none. And that's why we're speaking out. And then you come to us and say, well, where's your evidence? Well, we don't have any because we've been lied to forever. So how do you expect us to have anything to show for it besides trying to point out to you that you've been lied to as well? And what we're doing is not just for us, we're doing it for you as well. I'm not doing this so that I get away with something or I get something out of it. I'm not getting anything out of it. What I'm hoping is that I help save people if they're being deceived. And if we're not being deceived, well, then we all learn that what we were taught is the truth. And I'll tell you, just in 2 years of research, there's no way we were taught the truth. There's no way.
Now, was this the same guy with the generic little Cavendish experiment?
No.
Or a different guy? Oh, okay.
Different guy.
Well, I would just say to them, my little final words would be like, if you're sitting sitting at a construction site with couple 1,000-pound steel beams that are being hoisted up by cranes, you can literally move those things with your pinky finger. That's how well balanced they are. And if you put two of these things near each other, it's just preposterous. And anyone to claim that that's proof of gravity is just way out in left field. So my 2 cents on that. And by the way, I'm working on a video as we speak. So hopefully I'll have that out in the next couple of days or so. So be on the lookout for that on the Morgile.
On the Morgile. Bob,
right.
Final words?
Final words? Nope. Just be looking forward to seeing everybody on Sunday. We'll be covering a lot of new stuff, and we'll see everybody then.
All right. Sounds good, guys. be kind to each other and don't tell lies and don't tell people you're going to show 4K footage from space and make them think it's the Earth you're going to see. And instead, you get to see some 60-year-old woman doing ping pong with water. It's just not right.
Well,
see you guys soon.
And we got to see that guy's pores.
Yeah, that was good too. Till next time. Peace.
Peace out, y'all. A little bit later on, and I've got some clouds, but
Ladies
some
and gentlemen,
blue
we ask
skies.
you to please take your seats. Our program's about to begin.
So, Jaron, Cami said that on our audio levels, Morgal, you're a little bit loud, and Jaron, you're a little bit soft, and apparently I'm in the Goldilocks zone, so I'm nominal.
Okay.
Haha.
Don't use that word.
Okay, there were a couple people in the chat that said the voices were low, so I upped my mic a little.
Can you turn it down a little bit, John?
Yeah, let me go back and turn it back down a little bit. Okay, hopefully that's better. If not, then
We can't do anything about this annoying music either, so.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
Yeah, I didn't notice a lot of change, John.
Have her check now on my
Yeah,
voice.
I put it down 50%. Somebody just said Morgal's good in the chat. Thanks, Elevate Your Mind.
And me, am I
Dave
okay?
Engel says, y'all sound good. Your mic levels are nominal.
All right, our mic levels are nominal. All right, guys. Well, again, we appreciate this feedback because in the Hangout, Jaron sounds just the same as Morgal to me, and I'm sure that vice versa all the way around. So we really can't tell what it sounds like when it goes out on the broadcast. So whenever we have problems on Globebusters, Cami always comes up and tells me to adjust the audio one way or another a little bit. So we appreciate the feedback, and it makes it a little bit better listening experience for everybody.
Yeah, appreciate it a lot. And we have nothing to do with the music, so.
Work it out.
We'll turn off the music before you start. There we go.
To the future with NASA and Hollywood. Please welcome to the stage NAB's own Sam Matheny.
All right, Sam.
Vice President and Chief Technology Officer.
Can you up the volume on the presentation?
I think so.
Thank you. Good morning. And welcome to Reaching for
Should
the
be able to turn it
Stars,
right up on the video
connecting to
itself.
the future with NASA and Hollywood. NAB Show is the place for groundbreaking demonstrations of advanced media technology. And today, we are truly bringing you something that is out of this world. You are here to witness and to be a part
sure you
of
are.
an amazing collection of astronauts, filmmakers, and technology leaders that will take you behind the scenes of the advanced video and cloud workflows that power deep space research, that ignite our imagination about the future in vast areas of science and storytelling, and that create the foundation for the future of space commerce. Today, you will be a part of the first ever live 4K ultra-high definition transmission from space and the International Space Station. The first live discussion with astronauts in space at the NAB show. And an incredible gathering of scientists, astronauts, technologists, and storytellers. Such an effort requires great teamwork. And there
Emphasis
is
on the storytellers.
absolutely fantastic collaboration between our teams here at NAB, Amazon Web Services, AWS Elemental, NASA, and Christie. We must also offer a special thanks to the military and government conference as they enabled Dave McQueenie's participation today. So, as the saying goes, what goes up must come down.
He almost got that wrong.
What goes up must come down, except when what goes up goes into outer space. And that is what makes the first ever red camera to go to the International Space Station so special. This camera was a vital tool used to further our scientific studies and the interests of NASA's space exploration. It recently returned to Earth, so it did successfully come down. And I'd like to invite Dylan Mathis and Rodney Grubb of NASA and Jared Land, president of RED, to the stage to conduct a brief ceremony with this vital first UHD camera.
By storytelling, he means compulsive lying, I think.
In 2015,
he found the code that they put in.
Well,
wait, who was that? Who was that?
I'll have to find his name. I can't think of it right this second.
Yeah, I agree. Relativity is nonsense.
Absolutely.
That's just a way to really smokescreen everybody and confuse them because, you know, when you're trying to say that nothing has any relative comparison to anything else, I mean, it just gets confusing because you're just sitting there going, WTF does that mean, you know?
I was just seeing if I could put that on there. Yeah, that works. See, I put the chat on there, so pretty cool.
Oh, yep. There you go.
While we're listening to this rap music.
Is that's still coming from NASA? This is NASA rap here?
Yeah.
It's actually pretty sweet, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, they're like I said, they're trying to appeal to a specific demographic of younger people because that's, you know, ultimately where the market's going to be, which is way different from back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when, you know, they tried to be so incredibly professional. Now it's just like, hey, grooving, man, you know, we're hip.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of younger people who think that they're going to one day, you know, colonize Mars. Honestly, I mean, there's a lot of people that really think that, and they're preparing themselves for it and everything. And you know, the sad truth is that they've been making these sort of claims for, you know, decades and decades and decades, and it's, you know, they always just sort of kick the can another 5 or 10 years, and we were going to colonize the moon, but it wasn't really feasible or cost effective, but we're definitely going to do Mars and, you know, terraform it and, you know, all this great stuff that'll never ever happen. But of course they'll charge us up front for it for years and years.
Yeah.
Bastardos.
Yes, indeed.
Well, this music is terrible. Come on, guys. Do you hear it?
What?
Oh, I didn't know if you heard it.
Actually, it almost kind of sounded like Nathan's opener music, but I like his a lot better. I love late Nathan's intro. I think it sounds cool, but I mean that's almost kind of what this beat sounded like.
You mean the one that I made for the Alt News Tonight?
For the Alt News Tonight, yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
I like
a
that
little
one
bit
too.
like that. Yep.
I gotta make a new
one. Oh,
one.
you made that? I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd be
awesome.
amazed the amount of logos out there that I made in some way or another. I just made the Flat Earth Builders logo. He's the one who's building Flat Earth coffee tables. Or Missa, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Missa made his logo.
Oh, that's cool. So did you trade a logo for a coffee table, or?
I don't know if that's the deal or not. I would love one.
Gentlemen, our program will begin shortly.
You already said that.
Please take your seats. And as a courtesy,
Oh,
please turn off all.
All right, everybody, please take your seats.
Thank you.
This is typical, though. You watch. They're gonna wait. They're gonna wait till they're off the coast of the East Coast. Let's go look at the picture real quick. See here where we're at. So again, it's already 10:37 about, so we're gonna be, so it's already past us now. It's over about you, Bob. How's your sky right now, Bob?
Crystal clear. Not a cloud in the sky in Denver.
And blue?
Well, actually, there's a couple clouds, but yeah, it's very blue. There's a few clouds, cumulus clouds, but just little white puffy cotton balls. It's really a nice day.
Hey, looking at this little diagram here, obviously, you know, you've got the trajectory of the ISS, and then you've got the image of what looks like the ISS, which is obviously not to scale, but is that, the size of that image, is that supposed to represent sort of the visible radius of like where it can be seen from, or?
No, the green line is, the green circle.
Ah, okay, I can barely see it. Yeah, so it looks like it may be visible for me, towards the northwest.
15 NASA and RED collaborated
to fly a red Epic Dragon to the International Space Station. This camera has served us very well and has recently returned to Earth after 437 days in space. And it was replaced by another red Epic Dragon, and it will help us to continue to probe deeper into the mysteries of space. With Rodney Grubbs, I'm Dylan Mathis, as principal investigators for this project, we would like to present to you the first camera back from space. Thank you.
Okay, giants do exist.
Thank you.
I always feel like a hobbit standing next to Jared.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dylan, Rodney, and Jared. That is very, very cool stuff. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Carolyn Giardina, technology editor at The Hollywood Reporter, to set the stage for the panel discussion, including our first ever live ultra-high definition conversation with the International Space Station commander, Peggy Whitson, who also just happens to be the U.S. astronaut with the most cumulative time in space. Carolyn, come tell us what to expect.
Most cumulative time underwater in a tank.
For the next hour, this panel will look at how NASA and Hollywood use advanced technologies and inspire one another. This includes technologies such as 4K and cloud. Today, we will begin by demonstrating for the first time ever a live public 4K broadcast from the International Space Station. And since this is time sensitive due to the position of the ISS, I'm going to quickly hand this over to Sam Blackman, CEO and co-founder of AWS Elemental, for this segment of the session, and then we'll continue with our panelists.
Time sensitive. The damn thing goes over every 45 minutes.
Who's excited? First live 4K transmission from space ever. Let's get right to it. Johnson Space Center, can you do the audio check?
Go ahead and pretend there's a delay.
Coming. We should hear it in the room very shortly.
What is the audio stream getting there by Pony Express? This is ridiculous.
It's 250 miles away, not 250 billion.
I know, that's absurd. I thought the moon delays were ridiculously long.
Yeah, well, there's a delay, so it must be real.
I saw it on TV.
True.
Okay, here we go. Hello, Commander Fischer and Commander Whitson and Colonel Fischer. It is an honor for all of us and those online to join you and all of your colleagues at NASA in the first ever live 4K stream.
They're not even going to show the Earth.
What is the ISS position in orbit right now?
Commander and Colonel Liar.
11 seconds.
Wow, 11 seconds. Why?
Oh, come on.
Well, we're just passing over Baja, California, and we're heading in an arc over North America. By the time we finish talking, we'll be over Central Africa.
Wow.
Wait a minute, where are they at, Jaron? They're way past Baja, California.
Yeah, look at it. It's on the screen there.
About NASA's use of live 4K, I'd like to share about Peggy's exciting achievement that was recently made on the ISS and in space.
She made the microphone.
Peggy, you made 8 spacewalks, and you recently set the record for the most days in space by an American astronaut. Congratulations.
Her soul just literally died.
What inspired you to become an astronaut?
NASA 4K?
Yeah, that's the one I have.
I'm not seeing it on our local screen, but it's kind of a aqua-colored screen.
Yeah.
Anyway, the sound just kicked on it.
Oh, that was ours then. Okay, that's why it was.
Yeah. So But yeah, but it wasn't your. I mean, it was coming from me, but nevertheless, it was NASA's porn movie, not mine.
Yeah, it was definitely porn music, porn quality music at least.
Yeah, that's funny.
Let's see here.
So, yeah, I'm still not seeing any video on it yet, but that's okay.
Either I will
Oh,
reload it just to see. Oh,
Okay,
now we got
hey.
something. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, you have to hit the play button there.
You're back too. Wonderful. Quick question. Is it okay throughout the interview to refer to you as Peggy and Jack at times, or would you prefer Commander Whitson and Colonel Fischer the entire time?
I hear Buster bark, and I just got this visual of a dog kind of floating around on a chain outside of the ISS.
He's not chained up. He's a great guard.
You don't seem sufficiently nervous.
Bob, did you happen to watch the President Trump talking to the guys in the ISS?
I watched part of it. Yeah, God, it was ridiculous.
Brutal.
Yeah, very, very. But yeah, I had to take off and run up to Fort Collins last night, so it kind of got cut short. So I'll finish watching the rest of it today.
How long does he talk to him for?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, not too long.
Oh, I'm sure he's got a wealth of intellectually stimulating conversation for them.
Sound check number 5 from NAB in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. So Cammie just handed me a note saying that Morgan and I both have small echo and lots of reverb on our voices.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try and fix that.
Yeah, as I say, it sounds fine on the internal hang up here. So
That's what I didn't know. Could be because this thing's on. Let me see if I turn this on. Ask her about now. Go ahead and talk and see if it's any better.
How about now? How about now?
How now, brown cow?
How about now, brown cow?
okay, she's checking it. Hang on. Or I guess we. Okay, yeah. Ace McLeod says it sounds. Oh, he says he thinks. Okay, Cammie says it sounds better.
Okay.
And if anybody out in the chat, if we start getting weird on our audio, let us know, because I will be watching the chat.
Sorry about that.
What do you get when you cross a brown chicken with a brown cow?
I don't know.
I give up.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
Heads up,
No.
doors are now open. Doors are now open.
All right, and that'll conclude today's show.
We're done.
Goodbye, everyone. Farewell.
And I also have this thing on. Let's see if it will work here. Yeah. Can I move that thing? I just added the little locator thing there. Don't know if it's updating or not. I have to see when it goes on the live feed.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, they should be going on in about 1 minute. That's assuming they are on time. All right, beautiful.
Who, NASA? Yeah, sure. I'm sure they'll be on time.
Yeah. Well, they have all those atomic clocks. They should be. For sure.
Well, that's another thing I was going to ask you about.
I was going to say maybe they forgot to set for time dilation. What, Jared?
I was going to ask Bob if he'd heard about that guy. I can't remember his name right now. The guy that worked with the GPS. He's the one that actually found the GPS error. And then he started working for the government. God, I can't think of his name. I'll think of it.
Was it the kid, supposedly, that pointed it out? Or
No, now he's much older. But he's the one who's going around saying that relativity is nonsense because
Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage. Mirage. Mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaronism back with a live video for you this morning. Thank you for joining me on what should be an interesting day. With me today are my co-hosts for Globebusters, where you can find us every Sunday. We're on at 12 p.m. Pacific time till usually about 3 o'clock Pacific time. And joining me first is Bob. Bob, what's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot, Jaron. Glad to be here with you today, and this should be interesting. Seeing NASA CGI in 4K, I can hardly wait.
Should be quite beautiful. And also joining us is John the Morgile. John, what's going on?
Same shit, different day. In terms of NASA and their CGI, yeah, I can't wait. I'm really waiting to see what this whole rigmarole looks like. Yeah, beautiful day, perfect day for some NASA bullshittery.
Well, I'll bring up the page so you can see what that looks like. And this is the website that you can actually go to. The link is in the description if you wanted to check out that link just to see what we're going to be looking at. This is the website here where it's supposed to happen. It just says go to this website at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, which is in about 8 minutes. It's an interesting little thing here. It's talking about Watch Live, April 26, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. Then it says down here, featured in the 2017 NAB show Super Session. And then in quotation marks here, it says, reaching for the stars, connecting to the future with NASA and Hollywood, which is interesting. Produced by NAB show, NASA, and Amazon Web Services. So definitely interesting. Hopefully people are in the people who are watching, if you have a camera and you happen to be in these locations, and I'll show you right now what I'm talking about. So all right, so we've got these. This is at 10 o'clock. Sorry, is this at 10? Yes. Bring up this one. Okay, so this first picture we have on the screen now, this is at 10 o'clock where the ISS will be. And you'll notice something weird here, Bob. And if you see this kind of oblong green circle here?
Uh-huh.
Which is weird because we only see in a circle. So I started thinking, well, why is it this is the viewing path of the ISS. And so I was wondering, why is it that we only get this green, outline here? Why is it so oblong? Well, if I take it and do that Cartesian to polar that you've seen me do before, you'll notice that kind of cleans up that circle. So it's certainly interesting.
Oh, yeah, it does.
To see that, and then when it gets to the equator, of course, it's just fine and dandy. But here is the problem. So if you're outside, or you can go outside and take a picture before this thing starts, again, right at 10:30, we're going to be seeing the ISS here. Miss already went out about 15 minutes ago and took this picture. So this is showing you how, I hate to say it, but it never looks like this. Yeah, to us. I mean, this is definitely different for us. This is pretty ugly. So I guess we can expect to see heavy cloud cover. Then, so like I said, 10:30, we're going to see this. This is 10:37. We're going to be a little bit further along. And so if you're outside when this thing's going over your head, you won't be able to see the ISS. Oh, maybe that's the channel.
Is that the NASA porn movie or porn movie sound?
We'll swing over there. I think that's where the sound's coming from.
Yeah, I've got, it might be mine. Oh, you know what? It was mine. I'm sorry.
It's Bob's porn music.
No, yeah, it's my porn movie. No, actually, I've got the page up I've got a different page up than you do. It's the live.aws.events.com